Got my Z cam. I realize it doesn't sound that bad with him. If it does for you guys, let me know. Oh, look at his little butt. He's looking at me. That's you guys can't see the angles, but he's actually looking at me. Hi, baby. Hey, I love you. You want to come up here? I'm on a live. I'm on a live. Yes, I am. Wish you could see his little head turning. Anyway, what's up, guys? If anybody's here, I thought it'd be good, interesting to read the 75-page document. He's gonna knock it. He's been so good about not knocking over that camera because it's just like right there on the floor. He hasn't knocked. I keep thinking he's going to. I shouldn't have opened that window. Hold on a second. I knew I shouldn't open that window. He's gonna be barking. Give me 1 minute, guys. Let me remove this so I get it because I don't know what. Zeke, no, no, baby, no, not right now. You can't be barking. Okay, babes. Okay. Okay, guys. Hi, cat mouse. Come on, Bubs. Okay. I'll put it back up, but he's not here. Okay, guys. So I'm gonna read that document. Razmataz. I was reading comments. Oh my lord. He's barking at nothing. There's nothing there. You know what he's barking at? He's mad. Hold on. He's mad because I shut the window. Hold on. I gotta fix this. I gotta figure out how to make him happy. Hold on. Zeke babies. Hey, Bubba's. I'm shutting this window. I'm shutting it because you obviously have an issue with it. I'm shutting it all the way. Nope. You better not yell at me. No, it's shut, Bubs. You ruined that. You ruined it. At least when I'm on a live. If I'm not on a live, I'll keep it open for you, Bubs. But I'm gonna be reading. Oh, that boy. He's a little spoiled boy. He's a spoiled baby boy. I'll put it up if he comes back. How's the sound though? I'm checking the sound. Give me 1 minute. I don't know. It sounds okay, right? I think it sounds okay. Okay. I just don't know if I should remove um the actual camera because it sounds okay, but it does make it glitchy if I turn my head around. But it's good enough if he's here, it's worth keeping. But if he's not gonna be here, I might remove it and then add it back when he comes. Okay. Well, please, you guys let me know. Cat Mouse, I should make you a mod. Would you want to be a mod? You're always here. Would you want to be a mod or no? Because I was gonna say, if it's bad, like maybe one of my mods could tell me, hey, the sound is glitchy, and then I'll unadd it. Because I still have them backstage, but I'll just like exit out. Because if he's not gonna be there, might as well not have it glitchy. Right now it is seeming to do good, but here. Okay, hold on. Let me go to my YouTube site and add you, and then we'll start reading the document. I actually haven't read it yet. I just kind of skimmed through some of it to see, if it was interesting and what it was about. It's her appeal document. That 75-page thing that I thought I ordered the first time and spent, I think it was like a couple $100 and I didn't get it. Yeah. So finally it's out. Hold on. So I don't know. I think I should have got it that first time. I think they screwed me. Um, what was I gonna do? Oh, I was gonna add you as a mod. Yeah, hold on. Oh, he's he's staring at me. He's yelling at me because I shut the window, I feel like. All right, hold on, cat mouse. And I'll have you, we'll talk about like what I expect from you. Not that it's that sounds so serious, but like, different things about being a mod and what you should know and stuff. I don't know. I'll give you we'll figure it out. But right now I'll just add you and then hold on. Add as okay. Welcome, cat mouse new mod. Look, you can see his little butt right there. He's staring at me. Hey Bubba. I will open the window after the live, okay? I didn't even have it open this whole time. I just opened it right before the live thinking, oh, get some air in because it's hot. So it's not like he saw it and he got excited. And I actually had it open like last week a little bit when it was nice too. And he loved it, but he barked all the time. Okay. It might take a minute for you to show up, Blue. No, you're up, Blue. Cool. Okay. So you guys ready? Yes, he sleeps. Now that my grandma's not here, so when my grandma was here, he would take turns. But now that she's not here, he basically mostly always sleeps with me. Once in a while, he'll sleep with my mom if I'm up late working. A lot of times he'll wait for me in the bed though. But if sometimes he just, okay, I don't want to wait anymore. I want to go to bed. He'll go sleep with my mom. But most of the time, yeah, he sleeps with me. Morning, everybody. It's actually afternoon here. What time is it in Australia? Ooh, let me message Mama Mia and tell her I'm live too. Hold on. I messaged all the other mods that, at least the ones that come. Okay. So I wanted to text her so she knew. All right, 207. Oh, I see. All right, bubbies. He's laying beside, well, you could see he's laying like right kind of beside my, this is basically beside my chair. His head is, he'll probably go in his bed. Okay, let's do this. Let me bring up the document. So I'm going to move you guys over here. I wanted the document to be like right in front of my face so I don't have to turn my head, my neck, like from turning it the other day reading that document. It was, all right. His little butt, I know. That's like the side and his backside, like he's diagonal. He's laying like diagonal, so his head's like kind of up by me. Hey, Bubba, lay in your bed so they can see how cute you are. You want to come up here? I still have this little thing where he could. A lot of times he'll come up, you know. He'll go on and off, but he's never been up sitting beside me when I do a live. I have that chair. I purposely got this chair for this little side thing, but he does. He comes up it sometimes though, just not when I'm live. Manashumi. Wait, Mana Shanami. Julie Byrne. Hope G. Thank you. Yes, Annalie. Yep, it will be available as long as nothing happens where I have to take it down. But yeah, all my lives are, unless if like something would happen. If you never know, any rare things. But yeah, it. I mean, I have all intentions on making it live or making it public after all my lives do. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna share my screen. I got it all ready. This is her appeal. This is Shanda VanderArk's appeal. So I wish I actually would have read this before that hearing yesterday, because then, a lot of people were like, I don't understand. What's this for? What's the appeal for? And this would have explained it all. I also, though, wanted to show you that, hold on. Remember how we were so confused why, like, it looked like the line of questioning was about her incompetency, which was weird because he rejected that that two hearings ago he rejected that appeal, the incompetency one. But a lot of that lining of questioning, even by the judge, was like for that it seemed like, did it not? Which I thought was weird. But then I was starting to doubt myself, like, did he reject it? And he did. Um, that one is rejected. It's in the court docs too, but I'll just show you the local channel that 13 that's been covering it. I'll show you their article real quick, but it is actually in the court stuff too. Just um not not, there's no like files, but it just shows. But I figured I'd show you this real quick. Okay. Wait, what the heck? Where'd it go? Right here. A judge did not, so you guys could see this, right? Hold on, let me bring this up. So this is just from to show you that he denied that before that hearing yesterday. This was denied. And this was from that one hearing, 2 hearings ago, 3 hearings ago, where she wasn't even in court. Remember, she was just on the Zoom. That's when he denied it. I live streamed it. It says new hearing for VanderArk to assess the adequacy of her legal representation. A judge denied Shanda VanderArk's new trial request due to incompetency, but scheduled a hearing on ineffective counsel, and that's what was yesterday. Matthew Cassell said no. So Judge Matthew Cassell said no to a proposed. Let me make this bigger. We're going to read the document too. I just wanted to show you this because I meant to show it yesterday after the hearing and I forgot. So he said no to the proposed new trial for Shanda VanderArk on Friday on the basis that she was incompetent to stand trial. At this point in time, the court is making the ruling that the motion for a new trial based on incompetency is denied. But there's still, however, the judge did schedule a future hearing to see if she could be granted a new trial because of ineffective counsel. And that's what we were looking at yesterday, which I didn't understand that line of questioning because I would have thought he would have asked more about the ineffective counsel. But if you did see my live stream 2 times ago when she was sick, they did have her lawyer testify. So that was a part of this whole, he's him trying to decide if it was ineffective counsel. And he got up and testified, and both sides asked him questions, but she was too sick to take the stand, if you remember. So that's why he scheduled it for yesterday, which was like over a month after that initial one. And that was her taking the stand about that, which it was weird, the questioning, because it seemed like it was about incompetency, did it not? I mean, there was a little bit about ineffective counsel, but that's why I was like starting to doubt myself. But during that, I looked it up and I saw and I put it in chat, but I wanted to show you that. Okay, so here is her appeal. This is the 75-page document. Let's see what the little lies she wanted to tell. Let me take a sip of this though, real quick. Is the sound still good, guys? My mom's making pizzelles. Okay. Her pizzelles are so good. Okay. So here we go. Please take notice the defendant appellant, Shanda Margaret VanderArk's motion for a new trial or evidentiary hearing will be heard on, and that's left blank. So this would have been her appeal for both of them. Okay. So her reasons for her being incompetent and her reasons for ineffective counsel, which, like I said, the judge denied one. We're still waiting on the other. And what I started to say earlier and I never finished, somebody in the comments said that sometimes it takes a year for them to decide. I was expecting like, oh, if it wasn't yesterday, it'll be next week. So I don't know. Maybe it will take a long time, but I'll keep checking. So I don't know. I mean, I guess there's no rush. I mean, he probably wants to take his time. Zeke's still sitting right beside me. I hope he goes in his bed so you guys could see him. Okay. Still sound good, cat mouse? Okay, thank you. All right. Defendant appellant's motion for new trial or evidentiary hearing. Defendant Shanda VanderArk, through attorney Ronald D. Ambrose, submits this motion for a new trial or evidentiary hearing, stating as follows. Ms. VanderArk was convicted of felony murder in first-degree child CA. Sorry, I forgot I don't say that because of YouTube or just YouTube like flagging them. Anyway, so yeah, so she was convicted for felony murder and first-degree CA, that's a heavy charge too. Judgment of sentence, commitment to Department of Corrections on January 23rd, 2024. She was sentenced to life without parole on the felony murder conviction and 50 years to 100 years on the first-degree CA conviction. So just that one is 50 to 100, and then the murder was life without parole. Okay. Ms. VanderArk contends the convictions and sentences should be vacated, asserting the following claims of error. A. Ms. VanderArk was not competent to continue with the trial, as evidenced by reported statements of her incompetency, and that she was in the catatonic state. It makes no difference that she may have signed a document for the continuation of the trial if she was not competent. B, Miss VanderArk was denied the effective assistance of counsel. 3, wait, they start with A, B, and then 3, 4. Shouldn't it be A, B, C, D? Anyway, what do I know? Anyway, 3, Miss VanderArk contends that a new trial should be ordered or an evidentiary hearing as contemplated by People versus Ginther. And that's why that was called a Ginther hearing. That was yesterday. And that was part 2 of the Ginther hearing. Part 1 was that where her lawyer went up to testify. But anyway, to show she was denied her Sixth Amendment rights. For reasons stated in the attached brief, a new trial or an evidentiary hearing should be ordered. Hey, Joe Corby! Relief requested. Defendant appellant Shanda Margaret VanderArk respectfully requests that this honorable court enter an order for a new trial or an evidentiary hearing. Let me see. Hold on, I want to see something. If I hit page up or down. Oh yeah, that'll work. Instead of, okay, sorry, I was just testing out. Anyway, so here we go. Defendant appellant's brief on support of motion for new trial or for an evidentiary hearing. Introduction. Here we go. This is, let's see all her little excuses here. Overview. Dehydration is the first word that is listed on the death certificate as the cause of death. Yet the trial focused on food restrictions, locks on the freezer and refrigerator doors, hot sauce on the bread, and ice baths. Trial counsel fell into the prosecution's narrative without addressing dehydration as the leading cause of death. It's crazy though, because I was going over some of that stuff and cause of death was like hypothermia. When they had the coroner, or was it the medical examiner, she talked about other stuff too. So this is just, she's grasping, but anyway. So she's saying trial counsel filmed the prosecution's narrative without addressing dehydration as a leading cause of death. Had he addressed dehydration, which according to the prosecution's forensic pathologist can result in death in a matter of days, trial counsel could have provided the jury with information that there was never a restriction on water in the household, no mechanisms of any faucet whatsoever. No mechanisms on any, yeah, that's what I said, no mechanisms on any faucet whatsoever. Defendant appellant Shanda gets convicted as charged of felony murder and first-degree CA. She is sentenced with life without parole. Miss VanderArk timely requested the appointment of appellate counsel on January 23rd, 24. Substitute appellate counsel was appointed on February 3rd, 25. Statement of facts. Trauma and life-changing events led up to what occurred in the present case. Timothy, the deceased, was diagnosed as having attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, as well as being autistic. Transcript, jury trial, volume 2 of 4. Miss VanderArk's took on a responsibility of caring for Timothy when her ex-husband and his wife, who were living in Oklahoma, could not handle the adolescent child. Transcript, jury trial, blah, blah. I won't have to read that. Sorry. Preliminary exam. Ms. VanderArk was charged with open murder and first-degree CA concerning the death of her 15-year-old son. The cause of death was noted as being dehydration and extreme emaciation due to malnutrition and starvation. There was a significant contributing factor of exogenous hypothermia, so exposure to cold. During the preliminary examination, as well as other parts of the case, Ms. VanderArk requested some time to compose herself, requesting a few minutes to do so. The district judge denied the request, saying she seems perfectly fine. I'm just going to go forward. So if we have further trouble, we'll deal with it. But we put this off for a very long time. This was charged almost half a year ago. I need to continue with this hearing. During the half-year delay, Ms. VanderArk underwent competency evaluation. So wait, this was the preliminary exam. So this is what she's talking about during preliminary. She asked for a couple minutes to compose herself, and he's saying, it's just preliminary anyway. We already waited a half a year. Let's just go forward. She seems fine because she was a freaking Zeke. She freaking full of it. I mean, all these excuses. Hey, ASB. So they went forward with it. Oh my lord, Zeke, come here, bub. Anyway, so he I'm gonna kick him out of the room. Stop. I mean, not. I'll just make him leave. Zeke, you're not gonna be allowed in here right now if you can't behave. My lord. I think he hears my mom's mixer down there because she's cooking. And anyway, but the thing is, if you watch the trial, if you guys had watched it, I know a lot of you guys did. Zeke, I'm gonna have you leave. Stop it. Um, if you saw, he did stop a couple times, and she didn't even come to or was it sentencing or the verdict reading? I think it was. It was one of them. Now I forget. And then she didn't come to the last day of the trial and the verdict reading, I think. I don't know, but she always had these excuses. So I mean, he was probably fed up with it. Like, you went to professionals that said you were competent. I'm gonna agree with them. They said you were competent, and they know how to correct for like lies and malingering type stuff. Zeke sit in there. You know what I'm saying? They know how to. They have tests to so people can't like try to trick them. Anyway, sorry, I'm kind of putting off reading until he's done barking. That's why I'm just kind of talking because I knew he wasn't done. Zeke, um, but yeah, so it's ridiculous. And then he let her take a break after she like the whole, oh, I'm getting sick. There was some breaks in the trial because she was couldn't handle it, even though she saw Timothy every day naked because they would put him in ice baths. So she cannot argue that she didn't know he was that skinny because they would put him naked. She's seen him naked probably daily in those ice baths. It's just sick. Anyway, with an agreement from the prosecution, Paul Ferguson, who was 21 years old, the son of Miss VanderArk, well, I thought he was 19. Wait a minute. 21? Maybe he was 19 when it all happened. I don't remember him being 21, but I guess might have been by the time they had the trial. Wow. Do you guys remember him being 21? I swear he was not 19. Okay, so if he was 19 when it happened, they arrested him not too long after it happened. And then the court, even if the court took a year, I mean, maybe he could have been 21 by the time they did the trial. But wow, huh? Anyway, let's double check that to see how old Paul was when it actually happened. Um, that's what I saw. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So you remember that too? Okay, thanks. It's like, am I crazy? Like, so I guess by the time the trial happened, even though the trial was pretty, like, it didn't take that long. Even a year and a half isn't that long. But I mean, they didn't need to because it was so they the evidence was so strong. It was a clear cut case. They had Paul was willing to testify against his mom. I guess it did take 2 years. Yeah, because it happened in 2022, I think. So yeah, it probably like took a little over almost 2 years to go to trial or a year and a half. So that makes sense. Okay. So anyway, I think we're good now. Yeah, Zeke's lying. Okay, so let me continue reading. With an agreement from the prosecution, Paul, who was 21 years old, the son of Miss VanderArk, and the brother Timothy, provided testimony at the preliminary exam of his involvement in the murder as well as Miss VanderArk's conduct. I don't like how they worded that though. Oh, the brother of Timothy. I worded it wrong. That was my fault. Okay, so he's saying Paul was the son of Shanda and the brother of Timothy. Okay. Paul Ferguson stated he was responsible for making sure Timothy was fed. Although there was a case law that suggested starvation alone is not enough to support an open murder charge, defense counsel did not make an argument on the bind over. Therefore, or thereafter, the district court bound that matter over to the Muskegon County Circuit Court. Trial, jury selection, opening statements. During jury selection, the prosecution made a point of alerting the jury on the explicit nature of the photographs to be admitted. Shocking and horrible is how defense counsel subjectively commented on the case, mentioning, I need you to understand that you will be exposed to information and photographs that you will never get out of your head. Further commenting, so this is probably a heavy case as I have ever seen. Wait, this is probably a case. Oh, I think it's saying a heavy a case as I have ever seen, combined with evidence and the cause. So I know where she's going with this, why they included this, because that was her lawyer that said that. So she's saying, like, why would he be saying that? You know, it made her look bad or whatever. But you have to understand. Sorry, see he had to warn them. I mean, they're going to see things that they are going to be punted for. I mean, you saw. This is just annoying. Zeke, this is why I don't like to do lives in the daytime because Zeke, come here. At it with him. I'm so annoyed with him. Sometimes he's so annoying with his barking. I love him to death, but come on, Zeke. She's just talking on the phone. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, sorry. That's where I mean that's why they're bringing that up because he's the one saying it. Which yeah, they had to warn her because this is. I mean, you guys saw like I was shaking just looking at that. It's hard. It takes your breath away. Anyway, it says after the prosecution's opening statement asking you to return a verdict of guilty to the charge of first degree felony murder and first degree CA, defense counsel begins his opening statement with, well, yes. What he said. I don't have a lot to argue about that. Don't remember him saying that, but hold on. Asking you. So they're saying after the prosecution's opening statement, he begins his opening statement. So her counsel begins it with, yes, what he said. I don't have a lot to argue about that. But she's cherry picking this stuff because what did he say after this? I know, I thought watching her defense, I thought he did actually a really good job representing her. That was my overall feeling watching it. Now, she is bringing up things where like I said, don't worry, guys. If for some reason she does have a new trial or a new evidence you're hearing, she is not going to get free. They're going to convict her all over again. And there's going to be new people that learn about this case and see what a freaking monster she is. And that's all. Anyway, so let me continue here. The prosecution's case, when Miss VanderArk's ex-husband could not handle Timothy, he was sent from Oklahoma to Michigan to live with Miss VanderArk. Thereafter, so they're saying this is a prosecution case. Okay. Therefore, Miss VanderArk's life began to unravel when her husband had a stroke on January 3rd, 2022, losing his employment income and requiring him to live with his parents. Without the financial, emotional, and parenting assistance of her husband, issues with Timothy began. When officers arrived to Miss VanderArk's residence on July 6, 2022, Timothy was already declared deceased and was described as skin and bone, and Miss VanderArk was described as being distraught. Restraints and cameras were located at the residence. Locks were on the freezer and refrigerator, which was a major focus. But there were no locks on the pantry and cabinets at the time of the death and no barriers to water. Yeah, but you restricted his movement. You had cameras on him, so anytime if you weren't restricting his movement with zip ties or handcuffs. You had a little alarm on him or alarm when the door opened so you knew if he moved and then he got in trouble. He probably got hit by Paul and got screamed at and probably got tortured even more and had remember he had to run up and down the stairs. He's so weak. So yeah, he can't just go get water. You guys will be like, where's Timothy? Don't let him go. Don't let him out of the room. It's just bull crap because we know the story. And just because she didn't have locks or something to restrain him from turning on the faucets, they restrained him. So he couldn't move. He was always being watched. And if she was at work, Paul was home and she was constantly looking at the camera. So if she seen Timothy's moving, she would call Paul, Paul, Timothy, go to get Timothy. He opened the door. He's moving. And then he would probably get hit and beat up by Paul and get tortured and have to do physical things. So that's bullcrap that she's arguing this because he was not allowed to have water when he wanted. Just because you didn't have locks on it or whatever, he was restrained himself. You guys had him in a cage where even if he wasn't like physically restrained, he was restrained because you guys had cameras all over him. It's bullcrap that she's arguing this. I'm sorry. Within the pantry were crackers, soup, cereal, salad dressing, bread, maybe some Chex Mix, ramen noodles, large variety of options. But you did not let him go in there. It's just so bullcrap. He would not have been allowed to go in there. He was locked in that place, and if not, he would had to stand up against the wall. Or this is so messed up. And we don't have videos of Paul hitting him, but I guarantee Paul, after seeing that video, Paul grabbing him up like that, I know Paul was hitting him if he did something or he wouldn't listen. So he was scared to death. So he just had to stay. He couldn't move, and then he became so weak he couldn't even get up to move. I hate. She's so evil. Zeke is 9 actually. 50 or what was it? 50 years to I always forget Paul's sentence. It's a lot. Why do I always have to look it up? It's something to 100 years, 30 to 100 years. So basically, he can't even get seen for parole until 30 years. And that doesn't mean he'll get parole. That means he'll have a hearing, and parole's hard. You have to prove that, you're rehabilitated, that you took steps in bettering yourself. He probably won't get his first parole for sure, I wouldn't think. But he can't even go get to the parole room until 30 years. So, um, and we'll watch his sentence reaction after this. Yeah, 30 to 100 years. Um, no, you feel bad for Paul? I wouldn't feel bad. I'm saying he would beat the crap out of. No, just because I'm saying Shanda would call him. Paul was an adult. He had a like anger issues and stuff. I'm saying he would hurt him. He would hit him. Are you saying you feel bad for Timothy or Paul? I don't feel bad for Paul at all. He would be the one hitting him if he did anything, and he'd get mad and oh my god, and he would. I know he hit him. Like I know he was hitting him now after seeing that video of him pulling him. I know he was. And then they said he used to bully him back when they were with their dad too. So I don't feel bad for him at all. Are you kidding? I get what you're saying though, because you're going to say because of Shonda, but he was an adult. That's why I have a hierarchy, or I don't know if that's the right word. I do think Shonda is the most to blame. Okay, she's the mother, and she instilled these stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I think she is the most. I'm not going to argue that. But Paul is still a lot to blame. He was an adult. He knew what he was doing. And because so I think, yeah, I don't feel bad for him. But I have a question. If Mel, and I'm not arguing with you, this is a debate because I like debate and I want to get your thoughts on this. If you feel bad for Paul because of how he was brought up and that horrible upbringing and having to have, Shonda as his parents and be abused like that, right? Then you'll have to feel bad for Shonda too. Because Shonda had a bad, horrible upbringing too and was abused in foster care. See what I'm saying? So it's like Shonda didn't have a great upbringing either. I don't feel bad for her. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying with that reasoning, wouldn't you kind of have to feel bad for her too? Now, I think I know, a good answer to that is because, she had many years of being an adult to kind of learn from that. Yeah, you could argue that, but I don't feel bad for Paul. I don't. I don't feel bad for either of them. It's sick. But no, I love the debate. So don't ever feel nervous to give your thoughts, Mallory or Mallory or who else? Mello. Don't feel like I'm attacking you or anything. I just like debating and kind of getting people's thoughts. You're not alone. I mean, there are people I know at first when the trial first happened, there was a lot of people that felt bad for Paul, and then we started going through his jail calls. I ordered his jail calls, and people got to see who he was, and then it's people I kind of exposed them, and people were kind of like, okay, I don't feel bad for him anymore. And then I feel like the few people left that maybe still felt bad for him after this newest stuff with Paul grabbing him and yelling at him. I feel like he lost most of the people left that felt bad for him. But okay, so let me continue here. A cell phone extraction was made of Miss VanderArk's phone, exhibiting text messages between Miss VanderArk and Paul, providing the jury with the interaction between the two concerning watching and disciplining Timothy from February 18th, 2022 to the time of his death on July 6th, 2022. The day before Timothy's death, there was a serious concern from Miss VanderArk expressed via text message to Paul about Timothy's well being and whether Timothy was faking. Miss Shanda VanderArk says, is he talking to you at all? Paul says, no. Shanda says, is he seriously trying to make us believe that he can't communicate? Paul says, he's full of it. Oh, Mello. If you haven't seen the text message read through that I did on my channel, watch that. Listen to some of his jail calls, Paul's, and then come back and tell me if you still feel bad for him. And if you do, that's fine. Be honest. I'm not trying to, but just get it, see everything that's out there and then see if your mind changes. And maybe it won't, maybe it will, but that's what I should suggest. Watch my read through text, listen to the jail calls, and then come back and let me know if you still feel bad for him. Okay. So Mr. Ferguson says, no. Okay. Is he seriously trying? Okay. So Paul says he's full of it. Shonda says, could you put the camera in my room on top of the dog crate? Is he responding to you, Timothy? I mean, okay. And Paul says, and no, he's not. Or he's W, not Siri. Or he will not. I don't know. It's probably a typo. So Paul's saying no, he's not. So he's not responding to him, is what he's saying. I'm pretty sure. Shauna says, can you please force him to respond to you just to make me feel a little better? Be honest with me. Are you worried about him at all? Or is it just a bunch of BS like it has been for days? Paul says, it's the same old BS. Are you hearing this, Mello? But remember, Shonda is cherry picking the only ones that would show like you know what I'm saying? These are the best ones of her text, the ones that make her look the best, and it still makes her look like crap. But remember, this is her appeal. This is her picking out these to show that, that she deserves another child. So if you want to see the complete, watch my videos where we read them all. So yeah. So he's saying it's the same old BS. Shonda says, so you're not worried at all. So Shonda's asking Paul for his opinion, Mello. Do you see this? Paul says, nope. If I wasn't so angry, then maybe. And that's a big if. Shonda says, okay, let me rephrase. Let me rephrase that question then. Do you honestly believe we should be worried? Paul says, I don't know. I'm just tired of him being such a nuisance. Also, I called work and told them I'd be late. Shauna says, okay, I'm really sorry. I hope they are not upset with you. Paul says, nope. Shauna says, if you think G will behave himself and stay upstairs, you can try to go to work before I get home.
I would recommend starting to look for an Uber in about 30 minutes, though. Paul says, "Are you sure? Because I can and will stay until you get home." And Shonda says, "I really want to say go, but I have my concerns, of course. I don't know. I will trust you to make a good judgment that won't negatively affect your work." And what I think she's worried here is she's worried G is going to see Timothy like that because she knows how bad Timothy is. Um, I mean, she'll tell you she's worried probably that Timothy's going to misbehave, like she says. But anyway, so Paul says, "KK." Paul Ferguson, Miss VanderArk's adult son, who was living in the household, testified in exchange for a plea agreement, was charged with first-degree CA, and provided information regarding events with Timothy, began living in the household in May 2021. So basically Timothy began living May 2021, but by January 2022, so 7 months after he moved in, Adam had a stroke. So Adam left the house. That's when things started getting really bad for Timothy. Adam had a stroke, had to live with his parents. So that's why it's after Adam left, that's when the stuff started with Timothy, where they started, withholding food, doing what they did, the horrible stuff they did. I don't have to repeat it. Um, After Miss VanderArk's husband had a stroke in January 2022, requiring him to live with his parents, it began the downward spiral of events. I didn't read this, but it's like I always say things and then the next sentence says it. Anyway, as the household lacked the unifying presence of a father figure. It was shortly after the stroke that issues with Timothy occurred, resulting in restrictions on movement. Exactly. Restrictions on movement. Your words there, right? Is this her appeal words? That's the whole point, guys. That's the whole point of they're saying, "Oh, he could have got water in faucets and he could have got food in the cupboards." Restriction of movement. He couldn't because you guys restricted his movement. You said it right here. Anyway, restrictions on movement and food for not following household rules or misbehaving. But it turned into all the time. Timothy was disciplined in a number of ways, with Paul meting out the majority of the discipline when Miss VanderArk was away at work. Mr. Ferguson said on the day of Timothy's death, so Paul is saying that. Paul said on the day of Timothy's death, Shanda reported Timothy was not breathing, that Paul unsuccessfully tried to resuscitate him, that he called and spoke to 911, and that the clothes were placed on Timothy, who had been wearing an adult diaper. He reported police came, and after they left, Miss VanderArk disposed of items on their way to her in law's house. So they took a bunch of stuff like the cameras and a bunch of stuff, but they left. Oh, but the cops remember when they went in there seeing all this stuff. So they remembered some of the stuff they saw, right? But she tried to get rid of a lot of the proof. She makes me sick. There was a lot of talk about ice baths, but according to Paul, the amount of ice wasn't a lot, as it was made by a tabletop ice maker. Mr. Ferguson stated there was not a plan to neglect Timothy, but he acknowledges this occurs. Liar. He's a liar too. Miss VanderArk suffered for what she described as a panic attack during the trial, and the defense requested a 5-minute break, which was granted. The cause of death was noted as being dehydration and extreme emaciation due to malnutrition and starvation, with the contributing cause of exogenous hypothermia, and the manner of death was listed as homicide. At the time of death, Timothy weighed 69 pounds and was considered of average height. The forensic pathologist testified, however, that Timothy was severely dehydrated, explaining he was not getting adequate water either, and that makes it even more complicated, and he's even then more prone to low blood pressure. The urea nitrogen and creatine in his eye fluid, you could say he was clearly very dehydrated. The forensic pathologist stated in a concluding remark, "If you're not drinking water at all, you die much quicker. That's days." But the thing is they have proof on that picture that Paul took And there's another picture they take of his legs and stuff too. I think I only showed the upper half, but the picture that Paul took in the text messages 3 weeks before his death shows that it wasn't that he was just dehydrated for days. It was that he was starved for months. Anyway, Miss VanderArk was the only witness to testify for the defense. No expert, no psychiatrist to explain her mental health challenges, no psychologist, no corroborating witnesses, nobody else testified. She provided limited background information and testimony of her struggles once her husband had a stroke in January 2022. Miss VanderArk reported she was contacted by her ex-husband, who was living in Oklahoma, who was legally responsible for Timothy, to take custody of the child in May 2021 because the ex-husband said he could no longer handle him, that he was pushing his buttons, and that he needed to send him to live with me. She mentioned Timothy's stepmother informed her that they had motion sensors because she has told me she didn't sleep at night. She only slept when he was at school because he was into everything. But do you see what she does though? As a mother, she just doesn't sleep. She obviously didn't starve him because we seen what he looked like when he came to live with you guys. He was a little chubby. So that's, I mean, let me correct myself because I do know from some of the, if you guys go back and watch my playlist, I read through some of the statements of like teachers, counselors from when they were living with their dad. They were neglected to a good degree. I'm not going to lie. They smelled so bad, I guess, that they would give him a shower at school because it was so bad. There were some issues with some stuff with Paul doing stuff to Timothy, and so there was some neglect. I'm not gonna lie, but it wasn't to the degree of what he got at Shonda's because obviously he wasn't starving. He looked very healthy as far as weight when he moved there. Um, anyway, let me take a sip of this. Exactly, Jill Corby. Timothy only was allowed to have what they gave him, and they didn't sit there and give him a glass of water. He was restricted to move. Good point. That's all he got. So just because there was a faucet with water doesn't mean he was allowed to go in there and drink it. And I don't know if they were trying to imply, she was trying to imply, oh, he was in the ice bath. Do you think he was going to just drink his own water? Like, but I mean, first of all, Timothy or Paul probably wouldn't even have let him to do that. If not, and you think he realized like he was so out of it from being starved. I mean, you see his eyes were just glazed over. Oh, I just I hate what they did to him. Right? I mean, I hate them. I mean, I guess I could say I hate them, but I don't necessarily know them. I hate what they did to them. It's sick. They're where they belong, and I'm glad that Paul got the max. He got the max for the CA charge because they dropped the murder charge. He took the plea deal, and I'm glad. And I'm glad that Sean is convicted. But like I said, if he does give her, let's just have faith in the judge. And if for some reason he does that, he does give her a retrial. Let's just know this because legally, he feels like to cover all his bases so she doesn't get appeal again or whatever that he had to do that. But he knows that you, she's gonna get if she gets tried again, she's not getting out. But it just sucks because it's a waste of time. It's a waste of money. All right, let me continue here. I know, Maura. There's a big thing about, I know. A lot of people think he should have a charge too. Exactly, Jill. Yeah. Okay, so where are we at? So you know what though? What I didn't realize? If you listen to the way this is worded, I want to mention this because when I was just reading it, I was like, oh, so it's saying that, where are we at? Miss Vandergaard reported she was contacted by her ex-husband who lives in Oklahoma, who was legally responsible for Timothy to take custody Oh, never mind. I read that wrong. Sorry. I thought that said something else. Anyway, to take custody of the child in May 2021. So she's saying she was contacted by her husband to take custody of Timothy, right? Because he said he can no longer handle him and that he was pushing his buttons and that he needed to send him to live with me. She mentioned Timothy's stepmother informed her that they had motion sensors because, and she had told me that she didn't sleep at night. She only slept when he was at school because he was into everything. He was on the autism spectrum. He was diagnosed with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. He was diagnosed as bipolar and sensory processing disorder. He took batteries apart. He took toys apart. My youngest son set my youngest son's toys. How do you take batteries apart? But I think that's actually kind of not a bad thing that when a kid takes something apart, tries to put it back together, trying to figure out how it works. I used to do that, take things together, because I used to be always so interested on how things like how do they work, how do they come together, how do they, you know what I'm saying? How are they put together? So I used to take things apart and try to put them back together. I mean, that's curiosity. You're learning. I don't understand taking batteries apart, how you would do that, but I guess I don't know if that's even true. But anyway, he took toys apart, my youngest son's toys. He if he could get a hold of anything from Paul's room, he would take like mostly it was Legos. Paul still had Legos. He at one point messed with our water heater, saying he was extremely concerned about his safety, or saying she was extremely concerned about his safety, which was the reason to have motion detectors in the house. Such bullcrap. She was concerned about his safety. Oh my God. She would have made sure he was eaten and made sure he was. Oh, I can't with this woman. Miss VanderArk described the challenges with taking care of Timothy's medical needs. They, her ex husband and his wife, gave us a whole, like large gallon sized Ziploc bag of medications for him. I could not refill them because I could not get him to the doctor. We were going to try to adjust his medication because when he came to live with us, when he took his medicine, he was a zombie. It was just horrific. Let's back up here. So if you're claiming he drove his stepmother nuts cuz he was all over the place getting into things on the medicine because you're saying he came on all this medicine, but it made him a zombie? A zombie and all over the place taking things apart. That's two different kind of demeanors, right? It's just a bunch of crap. So the thing is the reason, don't give me the excuse, the reason is because you couldn't get him to the doctor. That's a lie. You put him in the car, you drive to the doctor. The reason is because legally, you weren't supposed to have him. You were doing something illegal by having him. So you knew if you took him to the doctor, you wouldn't be able to get anything because you weren't supposed to have him. Like that, her having him was illegal. And that's why some people are thinking Eric, which is his dad, his bio dad, Eric, he he should be charged because he legally did something illegal by giving his mom custody. Legally, Shanda was not allowed to have him for reasons, they lost him, but Eric, the dad, went through all the classes and everything he had to go through to get him back. Shanda didn't. By that time, Shanda and Eric were divorced. Shanda was with Adam. Eric met, you know, I won't say her name, but the stepmother. So he was with her. He did all the classes and did everything he needed to get his kids back. Shanda didn't. So Shanda legally was not supposed to have him. Yeah, you're good call, Jill. They didn't. I don't. It's been a while since I read those documents, but I can't remember any of them saying zombie either. I could remember them saying dirty, because I mean this is because neglect from home. I'm not trying to put Timothy down. This is when he's a kid. He was neglected. What else did they say? I think he was really behind. He had some Paul had anger issues. They were all dirty and stuff because they weren't in their clothes. They weren't being properly cared for at home. And this was when they were with their dad and the stepmom. they had a lot of kids. I mean, she came with a bunch of kids too. So like it was a pretty big family. I'm trying to think if I remember how many kids were in the household. They might have said with her kids and then um Shonda and Eric's kids, because Shonda and Eric had one, two, four, four, if I remember right. So four of those kids were all with Eric and his wife, and then she had some kids. So it was like a lot of kids. I get it, it's tough. So they had a lot of kids they were taking care of. And then that's why when that's right, because when Paul turned 18, that's when he went to live with his mom. So he was 18 and he only went to live with his mom a year before Timothy did. Maybe not even quite a year. 18 he goes with his mom, okay? But when Shauna and Eric were together, they had lost their kids a couple times. Because they were neglectful. They were not. They were doing things that were not safe for the kids. Took them away. Anyway, okay. So let me continue. Timothy was homeschooled because Mr. VanderArk's ex-husband, despite her request, would not sign over custody to Miss VanderArk. Because the thing is that she worked for the courthouse. There's not You're not going to convince me that she didn't realize that she legally wasn't allowed to have him. That's what that was about. If he was so sick of Timothy and wanted her to take care of him, he would have signed him over. He didn't want him. It's because there was no signing over, because legally he couldn't get anything to be able to sign it over to him because she wasn't allowed. So that's bull crap. That's not the reason. It's because Shonda, you weren't allowed to have him. Oh my lord, this is ridiculous. And you guys, if you guys don't remember, she had her law degree. She passed the bar, if I'm remembering right. She passed the bar, right? Right? Didn't she? I think so. She went to law school, graduated. She worked for the courthouse. She wasn't a lawyer, but she worked for, like, I think she was the assistant to the judges or something. I forget. It's been a couple years since I covered it, but she worked in the courthouse that she was convicted in. I think. Was it the same one? I don't know, but she worked in the courts. So you're telling me she knew how to read court documents, is my whole point of this. So if she was so concerned about getting it, she would have looked it up. She would have been able to see. I mean, if I could do this stuff, she can. She'd have been able to see that she didn't have rights for him, but I think she very well knew that from what happened, that she never went through the classes and never did the stuff she needed to get the rights to him. So the fact that she's saying this is lies, 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 Shonda. You weren't allowed to have them. It's making me mad. Yeah, I actually have a video of the graduation. Remind me, Jill. I uploaded it on my channel. It's a short. It's when she's graduating college. Paul's there. Remind me, I'll play it. Will you please remind me, Cotmouse, remind me. She had her degree. What I was debating on is if if she passed the bar. Because then you have to pass the bar. I think she even passed the bar. Wasn't it that she passed it the first time? If I'm remembering right. But I don't know why she never became a lawyer. I think she did, and then she didn't become a lawyer. I forget what the reason was. Um, that's what it is, Anna. I think that's what it was. You're right. See, I have all this information in my channel, on my videos though, guys. I was so thorough. I went through all of that stuff. So it's all in that playlist somewhere about what Anna's saying. She was all that stuff. So if you guys check it out. But yeah, I think that's what it was. She was behind and she couldn't. So she was very well aware of what she could and couldn't do. And she was smart, book smart. Dr. J, I'll be in chat talking after I read this document. Allie B from Tennessee, hey, I haven't seen you in a while. I know, I know. So sad. Hey, Lotus Spider, I can't even take it. Okay. And even Adam, her current husband at the time it happened, but then he ended up divorcing her after he was living with his parents. So he claimed he didn't know anything of this was going on with Timothy, but he was still married to her. His parents needed to take care of him. And then after he found out, he divorced her, and then he died shortly after. Um, but in his statement, he says he always thought it was weird the affection she had with her, like with Paul, um, and their kids. I think it was Adam that said that, wasn't it? A few different family members were talking about how Shonda was with her kids, like it almost like crossed a line. It seemed weird, like there was something going on maybe. Um, I think Adam said that, and then I think there was also somebody else in the stepmom's family that mentioned something about some claims that were made about maybe Shonda and her kids. But yeah, there was abuse because they when she was with Eric still. That's what I'm saying. This isn't new. So for her to say, "Oh, she was just so stressed and after she's trying to work and Adam was out of the house." No, you lost your kids when you were with Eric, married with Eric. You lost him a couple times, different things happening. So there's a history of this. It wasn't just like a I got overwhelmed for that year or whatever. There's a history. Okay, sorry, I'm rambling away, but yes, I do vertical and horizontal, so whatever you like at the end of the day, go to my home, go to the live streams, the live section, and you could either watch me horizontally or vertical, whatever way you prefer. Some people like the vertical, some people like the horizontal. But just make sure you're on the one that you like. Um okay, so here we go. Timothy was homeschooled. Oh, wait, where are you at? So I just stopped. I just got mad when I just seen this where it says that VanderArk's ex-husband. Wait, let me just read this again. Timothy was homeschooled because Miss VanderArk's ex-husband, despite her request, would not sign over custody to Miss VanderArk. And because Timothy had broken in Oklahoma's school property Chromebook, the school would not send school records to Michigan. Miss VanderArk said that her ex-husband would not provide a medical insurance card either. It's because, oh my God, I can't with her. Without a custody order, Miss VanderArk was without legal. There you go. There you go. But you know why you couldn't have a custody order, Shonda? Because legally you weren't allowed to have them. So it wasn't had nothing to do with Eric denying you that. It's because legally he couldn't give there would be no custody order because you can't have him. So this is just without a custody order, Shonda was without the legal documentation to get Timothy in school and get him medical treatment, commenting, "We couldn't get refills for medication. We had to. We had to get a refill through a doctor, and we didn't even have a doctor." Miss VanderArk revealed that once her husband had a stroke, financial stresses began with the loss of his income, and they were living not even paycheck to paycheck. Almost everything was paid late. I was struggling. I asked Paul for help with groceries, sometimes because we were struggling. She had no family in Michigan who could provide assistance. Miss VanderArk explained some of her own mental health challenges. Oh, here we go. Hold on. Victim. Here we go. She's always the victim. Miss Vander explained some of her own mental health challenges, reporting she is diagnosed with severe insomnia caused by attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Severe attention deficit hyperactivity disorder combined type. I have sensory processing disorder and OCD. And then after my husband's stroke, as a result of my husband's stroke, because I viewed him, I I I wasn't in the room when he had the stroke, but I was there right afterwards. And so I developed post traumatic stress disorder with disassociation from that. Oh my God. The only medication that I was on was for the ADHD. Shonda also had physical disorders, allowing her to use a service dog trained to pick up scent because as humans, we can't pick up the low blood sugar smelling, but a dog can actually pick up your sugar going up to about 20 minutes before we can, and they can pick up low blood sugar. So does she have low blood sugar? I mean, what? Why are you even saying that? It wasn't about low blood sugar. I forgot about that though. If you guys are new to this, you'll know she trained dogs too. She was a dog trainer. She did it, like privately, like people would reach out and have them train her dog or whatever. I'm not sure how good she was, but Anyway, so he was scent trained. He would let me know when my sugar was about to crash. Oh, I think she claimed she was like hypoglycemic, right? Because she wasn't diabetic or anything. Anyway, so I always carried orange juice with me, and that would keep my blood sugar up for about 2.5 to 3 hours guaranteed. As Miss VanderArk was describing her mental health condition, the prosecution objected, noting she was not qualified to explain the medical aspects of her condition to the jury. He was right. The court sustained the objection, stating, in order to say yes, that is exactly disassociation disorder or this, there's got to be foundation laid for that. And she cannot lay that foundation. Yeah, she can't. She's not an expert on that. She can't lay that for herself, he's saying. And if she's going to, again, that would be hearsay. Again, if the doctor comes in and says, we told her this, that lays a foundation. Okay, fine. But I think Mr. Rabbit is correct when he says that foundation has not been laid, which would then implicate him bringing in the doctor to say that's not true. So I think what she's pointing out here is her defense should have probably got an expert for her. I think that's where she's going there, right? Like, why didn't he get an expert for them to say that? Well, you know why? Probably because she doesn't have those, and it was probably tough to find doctors and experts that would say certain things that she wanted them to say because they're all lies. Maybe not all of them, but a lot of lies. Anyway, without an expert to verify her testimony, Miss VanderArk was left with merely providing her own testimony on why she lacked a memory of certain events leading up to the death of Timothy, which lacked the persuasiveness of an expert. Miss VanderArk explained, oh, Zeke is right there. I wish he'd lay in his bed, though. I shouldn't have laid that blanket there because he's laying on it, but if I didn't have it, he probably would lay in his bed. I wonder if I could turn it. Hold on a second. Hold on. Give me 1 minute. See if I can get this. Where do I have it? Hold on. Hold on, guys. Hi, babies. I love you, babies. I love you. Let me see how that looks. No, you can't even see him. Hold on, guys. I'm just trying to get this so. Oh, Bubba. Okay. All right. Hi, Bubba. I love him so much. Is he not the cutest? He's looking at me around the desk. Hi, baby. I love you. Sleep in your bed. Anyway, okay. All right, where we at? Miss VanderArk explained why the refrigerator and freezer had locks. Oh, you trudging. Lay in your bed, Bubba. All right. Lay in your bed. I'm sorry. Okay. I had just purchased a 2-pound bag of frozen chicken nuggets and put it in the freezer. And overnight, I guess he got around the motion sensors. But the next day, it was a weekend, and the next day I went to Little Man asked for some chicken nuggets. Little Man is G, which they just always called him G. Oh, Bubby. So that's what she's talking about. She had a son with Adam, so he was the youngest. He's there. Yeah. He's doing his little digging. Yay, Zeke. I love him. I can't wait till his fur gets long again. He's old handsome. He just got cut last week, so that's why he's a little Dorkosaurus cut. Oh, it's cute. Okay. Anyway, so it was the weekend, and the next day I went to Little Man, asked for some chicken nuggets. Or no, wait, hold on. And the next day I went to, and it stops because they're quoting what she said at the trial. Says little man asked for some chicken nuggets, and I went to get them, and the bag was empty in the freezer. Oh, the chicken nugget story. Oh. Um, and I was like, what on? I mean, we hadn't touched it. And I also started asking, and so I started asking, and at first Timothy lied to me. He said he didn't touch it. And then I went and checked with little man and with Paul, and nobody had touched the. So I went back because I had issues with Paul and Timothy lying to me a lot. Wonder where they get that, Shonda. Wonder where they get the lying. Hmm. Um, so I went back to Timothy. I said, somebody, nobody else has touched this. He said, I ate them. I said, okay, did you cook them? He said, no. He ate the whole 2 pound frozen bag, uncooked chicken. And then I love it because the prosecution brings up that they are cooked. Like, have you ever made chicken nuggets? They come pre-cooked. Those frozen chicken nuggets are pre-cooked, and I love that they bring that up because she's like, "Oh my god, uncooked chicken!" It's like, no, those are usually cooked. I mean, I know you wouldn't want your kids really eating frozen chicken nuggets, but he's not gonna necessarily get sick. I mean, they're pre-cooked. Anyway, anyway, so she claims she. You guys seen the trial? You know what this part? She claims that's the reason she put locks on. He ate the whole 2 pound bag frozen. Must have been a reason. He must have been starving. Had to be a reason why he wanted to eat frozen chicken. Maybe because you guys didn't give him cooked food. Nobody gave him food. Anyway, Miss VanderArk described concern about Timothy's health when eating the uncooked food. There was a time where he ate uncooked bacon out of the fridge before the chicken nugget incident. He ate a whole pound of uncooked ground beef at one point. Now, I mean, that would be an issue, but the chicken nuggets wouldn't. But I don't believe a word she's saying. I'm doubting that even happened. Um, this was all after the stroke when there was less people to keep an eye on him. The chicken was uncooked and it's dangerous. I had a panic attack when he did that, when he did the chicken. It was terrifying. I broke down completely. It's uncooked chicken. That could have killed him. It freaked me out. Miss Van Ark reported Timothy would wear hoodies that disguised his physique, and that after her husband's stroke, Timothy changed. Yeah, but you saw him naked. Poor 15-year-old boy had to get naked in a bathtub with you and Paul. So you saw his body all the time in those baths. She's such a liar. Once the stroke happened, he got really reclusive. He just, I mean, he didn't want. I had to force him for a while when he was doing his homeschooling. He would do it on his table, and when then I found out I tried to lock the tablet down, but he was doing other stuff on his tablet when he was supposed to be doing schoolwork. So I started the curriculum that he was on. You could print the assignments and questions. So I started printing that, and literally he'd be like, just stick it on the stairs. I and he'd give me the other assignments. I would grade them and stick them and put them into the program. But he didn't want anything to do with me hardly at all. Miss VanderArk explained that Timothy wanted a room of his own, where he could close the door, and the only room that fits his needs is what was described as a small room, which was big enough for a mattress. If it was big enough for a mattress, where was the mattress at? Hmm? Huh? Yeah, he had a tarp which Timothy had tore. So she's saying he had tore up the mattress as well as other items he tore up within the room. Do you know how hard it is to tear up a mattress? I mean, what do you, that's such a. Mm. Miss VanderArk described Timothy as being hyposensitive, meaning a person with hyposensitivity will experience low levels or an absence of sensory feedback. For example, someone with hyposensitivity may not experience feelings of being hot, cold, or in pain the same way other people would. So why put him in the ice bath as a punishment? If he couldn't experience the cold, wouldn't that be dangerous to put somebody that can't experience cold, let's put him in an ice bath for punishment? Why would you even do that? And I love that the prosecution brings up a point because he's talking about how Timothy loved hot sauce. So she didn't think the hot sauce was an issue. But then why did you use that as a punishment? I mean, we know she did it all the time, but she claimed it was for a punishment. if he liked hot sauce, how would that be a punishment? And the prosecution called her out for that. Well, how would it be a punishment if he liked hot sauce? So full of it. They caught all of her lies and called her out. Um, Ms. VanderArk testified that she reached out to the Department of Health and Human Services for assistance to get Timothy on Medicaid, but they said that because he had other insurance, that would be primary. So we still have had to have that information. Not being from Michigan, Ms. VanderArk did not know of the resources available. That's bullcrap. She worked for the courthouse. All she had to do would ask somebody there. They would have helped her. But she's saying she didn't know the resources available, saying as far as resources go, the only thing that I thought about was DHHS for things like Medicaid and food stamps. After being shown a photograph of Timothy at the time of his death, Miss VanderArk had a physical reaction, necessitating a trash can, causing the court to recess. And I love yesterday how that prosecutor brought up that the trash can didn't have any puke in it. How awesome was that? Like that she called out like, "Oh, really? You got sick? That trash can didn't have anything in it." Once trial resumed, Miss VanderArk stated there was food in cupboards and in the pantry, which were not secured. Yeah, Timothy was secured though. Timothy was restricted. Oh, I can't stand that. This makes me mad. This case makes me so mad. Miss VanderArk said the punishment for Timothy was not to restrict food. The punishment was imposed because Timothy was being deceitful and sneaky. If he had asked for food, he could have gotten what he wanted, saying, "I was trying to teach him not to sneak." That is the biggest lie. You wouldn't, they would tease him with a chicken nugget, a frozen chicken nugget. Like, wouldn't even let him have stuff. And then didn't he get like, wasn't there something, remind me guys, because like I said, it's been a while, but there was something about him eating the rest of a burger that was left over that somebody didn't finish. And didn't they make him spit it out or something, if I'm remembering right? It's like such a lie. It's the fact this is the reasons why this is bullcrap, because she's lying. She won't take responsibility still. She's trying to blame him. He snuck it. Wasn't just food. He snuck. It wasn't just food. He would sneak in the garage. He would sneak toys. He snuck around and messed with his baby brother's homeschooling materials. Miss VanderArk reported about Timothy being on a hunger strike in the weeks leading to his death, but made sure he would be getting calories. Trust me, I know he's thin. That being said, he told me a week and a half ago that he wanted to be thin to make me feel bad for punishing him. She's saying a week and a half ago. So I mean, we saw what he looked like. He couldn't tell. Like, he really said, "I want to be thin to make you feel bad." He did not say that. That is the biggest lie. I would bet anything that he did not say that. Oh my God. She's saying a week and a half. So about a week and a half before he died, she's saying basically, right? You don't get to grump at him for that though. I already lit into him plenty for it. Yeah, so well, I want to fix it. He will get most of his calories from plain bread and rice for, pulling that. He'll get plenty of calories, but not get to enjoy them that way. What a jerk. Oh, this is okay. Wait, hold on. Okay. This is what she wrote to him. Okay, trust me. So she's writing. I think maybe this is a response to when he sent the picture of Timothy, maybe. So this is what she's saying to Paul. Obviously, she says, "Trust me, I know he's thin. That being said, he told me a week and a half ago that he wanted to thin to make me feel bad for punishing him. You don't get to grump at him for that, though. I already lit into him plenty for it." So she's telling Paul that. Yeah, so well, I want to fix it. He will get most of his calories from plain bread and rice for, pulling that. He'll get plenty of calories, but not get to enjoy them that way. Miss Van Ark testified she never deprived Timothy of water. This was the only question by trial counsel and no follow up on the unlimited access to water. Miss Van Ark described the types of disciplinary measures used, which included hot sauce on bread, ice baths, and ice being made from a tabletop ice maker that could make about a cup and a half of ice. commenting that remaking ice would take another 2 hours. But I'm glad because I remember during the trial, the prosecution made a point and said, but you make it, put it in a bag or something, put it in the freezer, make more. So you could definitely have more than a cup of ice. You just make it, keep it in the freezer, and you could just collect a bunch of it by making it and keep making more and put it in the freezer. So you know what I'm saying? You could end up getting a big bucket full. So it's bull crap. Miss VanderArk mentioned Paul was the only option to care for Timothy while she was at work, that she relied on him, and that she trusted him when he reported he was not worried about Timothy when being asked. So she's saying, oh, when she had, Paul wasn't worried about him, so I trusted him. But you're there too. You're his mother. Can't you see? Be honest. So this is her when she said to Paul, be honest with me. Are you worried about him at all, or is it just a bunch of BS like it's been for days? But look how she words that question. Like asking, but then it's saying, or is it a bunch of BS? And then like it's been for days. Like she's wording it like telling him like for days it's just been a bunch of BS. So is it the same? So it's almost like a trick way. Of course he's probably gonna say. Now I still blame Paul because no, he should have said something. He had a chance. He had a chance. He had a chance. He could have fed him. It's just I don't feel bad for Paul. Miss VanderArk stated she never intended to harm Timothy, and that during this time period I was barely functioning. This is Shanda saying it. Poor baby. I missed a lot. I hate it because I feel like a complete failure. But there was things that I just didn't see. There was a lot that I didn't see, unfortunately. She reported that when she saw him unresponsive, she called 911 and she attempted CPR until medical personnel arrived. This is making me mad. I'm sorry, guys, that I keep um commenting. It's just, ugh, it makes me so mad. It's reminded me of some of the stuff I forgot. Hold on a second. Oh, wait, hold on. I just put you guys down. Hold on. Let me find you guys again. There you go. Okay. Um, where are we at? So she's saying she reported that when she saw him unresponsive, she called 911 and she attempted CPR until medical personnel arrived. No, she made Paul give him CPR. That's a lie. I think she even made Paul call 911 too. She's like, do this, do that. So she was making Paul do that. Anyway, the court ended for the day prior to jurors' questions due to Miss VanderArk being distressed. The medical distress continued to the next day with the trial counsel informing the trial court, my client is suffering a medical issue. We are hoping that given some time this morning, we'd be able to get her to a point she'd be able to come and join us. She'd be competent to do so. The court has been gracious. Our trial was supposed to start at 9 o'clock. It's now 10 minutes to 11. And we appreciate the court's grace in allowing us to work with her and hopefully get her to the point where she could come and participate in her own trial. I must report to the court at this point that the situation has not occurred, that she at this point is not able to participate in the trial given this medical situation. That as a result of that, that she's been basically, we've gone over a couple options. So remember she did this for part one of the Ginther hearing. They had to, that's why there's two parts, 2 different days. Yesterday would have happened like over a month ago, but she claimed she was sick, so he let her come back. She did the same thing for the trial. Anyway, so it says, as a result of that, she's been basically, we've gone over a couple options. One, ask for to adjourn this case until a later date. But quite frankly, the situation that brought on this medical situation is occurring and is a part of the stress of being on trial. So the reality is we couldn't guarantee to the court that as of Monday or Tuesday or even Wednesday of next week that we'd be in any different situation than we were in right now. In fact, for the record, I anticipate we'd be right back to where we are now, even if we waited a few days ago to work on things. Wait, what are they saying though? I don't understand what. So we couldn't guarantee the court that is. So he's even saying even if they waited Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, that like she wouldn't have got better. Given the situation, I explained to my client her options. She could come over to the courtroom on her own volition or with assistance and participate in the hearing, or she could waive her right to be here and avoid this and not avoid, but to not to participate as we go forward. 'Cause remember, she wasn't there that last day. She has chosen the latter, not showing up to her own court, basically, to her own trial. She's chosen to waive her right to be here. She is requesting not to come back again. She for this purpose, she is not requesting an iPad or any other aid to allow her to watch the proceedings from where she is. She is content to rest at this point and simply allow her legal team to go forward representing her in this matter in concluding this particular trial. Therefore, I'm asking the court at this point to continue with the trial without my client being present. Thank you. The prosecution states, presumably without a chance to see Ms. VanderArk or any medical report on her condition, on whether she was competent, this is a critical stage of the proceedings, that we would have something at the time it becomes available, something in writing from waiving her right to be here. Additionally, the jury had questions, which trial counsel conceded in not having them be asked to Ms. VanderArk. Without a mental health evaluation, without a chance for jury questions, and without the opportunity for redirect exam to clarify the prosecution's cross exam, trial counsel, again without consent of his client, rests his case and allows for the prosecution to put on a rebuttal evidence. Prosecution's rebuttal. Let me take another sip of this word. So, prosecution's rebuttal. An officer provides commentary about a video that occurs about 7 hours before Timothy's death, where he explains a tarp is being placed in the room and that Miss VanderArk is seen dragging Timothy by the arms into the tarp and into the room. That's what I played yesterday. Reporting without objection. And I want to tell you, yesterday I have timestamps. So if you guys go to either the vertical or horizontal, go to the pin comment, and I have everything listed timestamps. You can just click on whatever you want to see the timestamp. And I also have it, so I have it in a pin comment. So whenever I have timestamps, I'll have it in a pin comment, and I have it in the description of the video. So you can go to the description and go to it, and then you'll see it chapters too. If you guys know where the chapters are, you can go to the chapters. So if you guys want to just skip around to whatever you want to see from yesterday, but I do play that part of the video where she's dragging Timothy by the arms into the tarp and into the room, reporting without objection that Timothy's eyes were open but not really seeing anything. He appeared to be unresponsive. He didn't speak at all. He moaned a few times. It was very concerning watching that and seeing his appearance. The officer describes the video further. So remember, they didn't play this video at the trial, but the officer was watching it on his screen and he was describing it. And they did play some audio um, of that because it was important to play the audio of where she tells Paul to just say he went on a hunger strike. So they play the audio like right before as they're trying to reset that they're freaking out and they find Timothy. So they did play the audio to the jury so they could hear them like, oh my God, what are you gonna do? Just tell them we went on a hunger strike, and then they called 911 and they played that. And then he described the video to them, but they didn't get to see it the video. They just heard, like I said, they heard them when they found Timothy, they heard the audio, and then he described before that, like this part. Well, this is from the trial. So this is what he's describing. Anyway, the officer describes the video further. Miss VanderArk, Shanda, enters the room, and you'll see her reaction regarding the finding that I know to be deceased, but I don't believe she does at the time. Defense counsel allows the commentary and description of the video, even though it was eventually played for the jury. Wait, I'm trying to think. Oh. After the lunch break, the court inquires about the status of Miss VanderArk. Trial counsel, despite having the opportunity to consult with medical psychological personnel, says the situation remains as it was, Your Honor. My client desires not to attend further. The parties gave their respective closing arguments, arguments without the consent of his client, um, who proclaimed she was innocent. Trial counsel advocates for a manslaughter verdict, saying these people committed manslaughter. That's what they did. That's what it was. Sorry, I worded that wrong yesterday. So what one of her reasonings is the fact that she, this is Shanda, she says, well, I always told my lawyer I was innocent, and the fact that he told the jury basically that she was guilty of manslaughter. So she said that he didn't go over that. He didn't go over that with her. So they talk about that in part one of the Ginther hearing. They bring that part up. That's why, and I remember in chat when they brought it up, we were kind of worried, like, oh shoot, she may get a new trial, because not that it's right. I'm not saying but I'm saying like legally, so her claiming that she didn't okay that. She always said she's innocent. He shouldn't have said she was guilty of manslaughter. So that was one of her things. So we'll see. And like I said, in part one of the Ginther hearing, they do have her lawyer testify. So check it out if you're interested. Okay. So yeah, so he says without the consent of his client who proclaimed she was innocent, trial counsel advocates for a manslaughter verdict, saying these people committed manslaughter. That's what they did. Defense counsel never mentions dehydration being cause of death. According to the defense counsel, Miss VanderArk declined to join us for this portion of the trial. And according to the transcript, there is something in writing to that effect that was filed. There's nothing, however, suggesting she was competent, and nothing to suggest she was seen by mental health personnel. To the contrary, in an interview provided by defense counsel immediately after the trial, it was revealed that Miss VanderArk was in a catatonic state. There is an indication that Miss VanderArk potentially could hurt herself. The jury found Miss VanderArk guilty as charged. Miss VanderArk was sentenced to life without parole on the felony murder conviction and 50 years to 100 years, which exceeded the sentencing guideline range of 135 months to 225 months on the first degree CA. So he exceeded the sentencing guideline on that. Good for him. Good for him. This was just probably one of the most horrible cases. Miss VanderArk raises two issues in this motion. First, she was tried and convicted when there was a bona fide doubt about her competency. And second, she was denied the effective assistance of trial counsel. On either issue, relief is warranted. Remember, he already denied the competency part. So we're waiting on the effective counsel part. Okay, so here we go. One, a defendant's due process right to a fair trial is violated where there is a failure to observe procedures adequate to protect a defendant's right not to be tried or convicted while incompetent to stand trial. Ms. VanderArk's conviction must be vacated when she was convicted while there was a bona fide doubt of her competency to stand trial, described by her trial counsel as being in a catatonic state. Succumbing to a barrage of body blows, Miss VanderArk subconsciously exclaims, no mas, unable to continue with the trial, being paralyzed and in a catatonic state. In a trial, however, there is no such thing as a TKO. A person has to be competent to be tried and convicted. And if there's a bona fide doubt of a person's competency, the trial needs to be paused while the issue is addressed. Ms. VanderArk's convictions must be vacated because her due process right to be tried while competent was violated. An incompetent defendant shall not be proceeded against while he is incompetent. A defendant's due process right to a fair trial is violated where there is a failure to observe procedures adequate to protect defendant's right not to be tried or convicted while incompetent to stand trial. A defendant is presumed competent to stand trial unless his mental conditions prevents him from understanding the nature of the object of the proceedings against him, or the court determines he is unable to assist in his defense. Either the trial court or any party may raise the issue of a defendant's competency to stand trial. And that's the thing. She was definitely able to understand. She was taking notes the whole time at trial. So she was taking part, whispering to her defense, her attorney. So she was definitely she was able to be a part of her defense. So that's BS. And I'm glad he denied her for that. So that's already denied. The protection afforded by the Due Process Clause requires that a court sua sponte hold a hearing regarding competency when any evidence raises a bona fide doubt about competency. The test for such a bona fide doubt is whether a reasonable judge, situated as was the trial court judge, whose failure to conduct an evidentiary hearing is being reviewed, should have experienced doubt with respect to competency to stand trial, evidence of a defendant's irrational behavior, a defendant's demeanor, a defendant's prior medical relative to competence are all relevant in determining whether further inquiry in regard to competency is required. Additionally, a defense counsel's expressed doubt as to the defendant's competency is also a factor that should be considered. The Drope case is the seminal case on the subject. Drope and its progeny, the conclusion needs to be reached that Miss VanderArk must have her convictions vacated. She was in no condition to be tried and was in no condition to give any consent to be tried without her presence. So she chose not to be there. Now, no, I was in no condition to give that consent. Oh my God, I can't. Miss VanderArk was described by her attorney as not being competent, and there was reports that she could potentially hurt herself. Further, there is a mention by a trial counsel, which is more descriptive, that she was in a catatonic state, as in drope, or the court stated, even assuming the right to be present was one that could be waived. What we have already said makes it clear that there was an insufficient inquiry to afford a basis for deciding the issue of waiver. There was insufficient inquiry into Miss VanderArk's mental state to conclude any waiver was valid. The convictions must be vacated, and the prosecution, as in the Drope, is to be given the opportunity to retry. Number 2, a defendant has a right to the effective assistance of counsel. So this is the one we're waiting for. So she has a right to the effective assistance of counsel, and if they raise the issue, they are entitled to have an evidentiary hearing if the present record needs expansion. Ms. VanderArk should be granted a new trial or an evidentiary hearing on the issue of ineffective assistance of counsel. Ms. VanderArk contends she should obtain a new trial and or evidentiary hearing on the issue of ineffective assistance of counsel. The Sixth Amendment right to counsel is the right to the effective assistance of counsel, and the benchmark for judging any claim of ineffectiveness must be whether counsel's conduct so undermined the proper functioning of the adversarial process that the trial cannot be relied on as having produced a just result. A convicted defendant's claim that the counsel's assistance was so defective as to require a reversal of a conviction needs to satisfy 2 requirements. First, the defendant must show that counsel's performance was deficient. Second, a defendant must show that the deficient performance prejudiced the defense so as to deprive the defendant of a fair trial. Let me read that again. Second, a defendant must show that the deficient performance prejudiced the defense so as to deprive the defendant of a fair trial. Regarding the first prong of Strickland, the proper standard for judge and attorney performance is that of reasonably effective assistance, considering all the circumstances. The defendant must show that counsel's representation fell below an objective standard of reasonableness. With regard to the second prong, The required showing of prejudice, the proper standard requires the defendant to show that there is a reasonable probability that, but for the counsel's unprofessional errors, the result of the proceeding would have been different. That thing, no way. There's no way. So hopefully that comes into play a lot because hopefully he realizes like it'd be a waste of time and money to go through this all again because it would definitely not result in anything different. No way. A reasonable probability is a probability sufficient to undermine confidence in the outcome. A court hearing an effectiveness claim must consider the totality of the evidence. When there are errors apparent on the record, an evidentiary hearing on the issue of ineffective assistance of counsel is not necessary. Um, I'm trying to see. I feel like that's saying the op. So when there are errors apparent on the record, in evidentiary hearing on the issue. Huh. When the errors are not apparent, a defendant needs to seek an evidentiary hearing at the trial court level to establish his claims as a precondition to invoking a process of appellate courts. Why do I feel like it should be the opposite? It should be when they are apparent. That what am I missing here? I'm just looking at this wrong. I feel like this should be when they aren't apparent, and this should be when. Oh, I wish I would have read this before, I guess, because I'm sure it'll click when I read it the second time. Anyway, um, so it says when errors are not apparent, a defendant needs to seek an evidentiary hearing at. Oh, I already think I understand what. Okay. They need to seek an evidentiary hearing at the trial court level to establish his claims as a precondition to invoking the process of appellate courts, except in a rare case where the record manifestly shows that a judge would refuse such a hearing. Stated another way, to the extent a defendant's claim depends on facts not of record, it is incumbent on him or her to make a testimonial record at the trial court level in connection with a motion that evidentially supports his or her claim. In support of this motion, and as an offer of proof, Ms. VanderArk is providing her affidavit that shows she was denied the effective assistance of counsel. Competency. Trial counsel knew Ms. VanderArk was in no condition to continue with the trial, and he stated as such, mentioning he was not competent, or she was not competent. We were hoping that given some time in this morning, we'd be able to get her to a point where she'd be able to come. Okay, I already read that. I'm talking about how she's catatonic, and that purportedly getting a waiver to go forward with the trial from an incompetent person. Oh, wait, hold on. I should read that part. That's different. Okay. So saying we were hoping that give sometime this morning, we'd be able to get her to a point where she'd be able to come and join us. She'd be competent to do so. I must report to the court that at this point the situation has not occurred. Yet, knowing her condition and describing it as catatonic, he proceeds with the trial, purportedly getting a waiver to go forward with the trial from an incompetent person. Miss VanderArk was in no condition to waive anything. So they're saying like, she wasn't competent to even waive that. So she wasn't capable of waiving it. She wasn't, whatever, dude. This is making me mad though. Why don't I have this? Well, we're on 32. I should have this a little bit bigger. Sorry. Okay. There we go. Sorry, guys. I didn't have it that big. Okay. Here we go. While trial counsel had concerns at the early part of the case regarding Ms. VanderArk's competency and made the correct move to request a competency exam, he failed to secure her rights when it was obvious she could not proceed during the trial. Added to this, despite her objections for the trial to continue, he purportedly gets a waiver from an incompetent person so that the trial could resume without her. Trial counsel was duty bound to have Ms. VanderArk evaluated for competency. No, he already denied that, Maura. That's why I didn't understand why they were talking about like her competency yesterday because he denied that already. That first 2 times ago, that first thing where she came into Zoom, he denied it like months ago. I think the reason they probably brought it up yesterday was because it kind of goes with the ineffective counsel because she was saying like, well, he shouldn't have let me go through with that because I was incompetent. So that kind of is like something that the council did. You know what I'm saying? That's the only reason I could think him bring it up. But yeah, no, Maura, he already denied that. I'm just reading it because we haven't read through this yet. So the incompetent part is already nope. He already said no to that months ago. We're just looking at the waiting for him to decide on the ineffective counsel. So yeah. Oh, okay. I see. I see. But it really was idiot. I shouldn't doubt myself so much because I had said idiot, that's what I remember hearing her say, and reading the transcripts and stuff. And then when they said yesterday dummy, I was like, of course, I just doubted. I thought, okay, I must be wrong. It must be dummy. But here I was right. It was, I mean, I was right in what I heard. It was idiot. But I see, I didn't realize that he said dummy in the opening statement. Hmm. The prosecutor was good. It wasn't the same girl that in this. It was a guy. He did a good job, the prosecutor, and I think her lawyer did good, to be honest. But Miss VanderArk's competency made the correct move to request a competency exam. God, I'm so annoyed. It wouldn't even bother me his barking, but it bothers me if I'm trying to do a live or trying to um do a pre-record editing because I mean, yeah, I have to stop. Okay. Miss VanderArk's competency made the correct and wait, where are we at? Hold on. While trial counsel had concerns at the early part of the case regarding Miss VanderArk's competency and made the correct move to request a competency exam, he failed to secure her rights when it was obvious she could not proceed during the trial. Added to this, despite her objections for the trial to continue, he purportedly gets a waiver from an incompetent person so that the trial could resume without her. Trial counsel was duty bound to have Miss VanderArk evaluated for competency. The principle is demonstrated by People v. Harris, where the defendant was initially found competent to stand trial but exhibited bizarre behavior during the trial, asking for mental health help, which was denied, and she was subsequently convicted. The court reversed finding error in the trial court's failure to have defendant's competency reevaluated and finding ineffective assistance of counsel based on defendant's attorney to see. I was right. I didn't even read this yet, guys. Swear to God. But that's what I was just saying is why they probably brought that in. Um anyway, finding an ineffective assistant counsel based on defendant's attorney failure to move forward for a second competency evaluation and judicial error based on the trial's court failure to order a reevaluation sua sponte. Yeah, see, pretty smart. No, I'm just being silly, but yeah, that's the only thing I could think of as, and that's what it was. So that makes sense. So they brought that up because they're saying the defense should have furthered the competency issue. They shouldn't have, you know, um, went through with, continuing without her. They should have got another evaluation. So that was what she was saying. Okay. I'm glad I'm reading this now because I was so confused yesterday why they were focusing on that. It's like, but I don't think she's gonna get it, guys. What do you guys think? What do you think he's gonna roll? Despite Miss VanderArk's request to stay the proceedings until she could regain her competency, Wait. Despite Shanda's request to stay the proceedings until she could regain her competency, trial counsel forges ahead in direct contradiction to his client's wishes. And trial counsel should have known better than to obtain a waiver from an incompetent person, leading the court to proceed with the trial. See, I think that's a bunch of crap because I don't I think that's what she wanted. She didn't want to be there. So that I think in that moment, it wasn't that she wanted them to wait for her. She wanted a reason not to have to go. This is my opinion. So this is just bullcrap that she's saying right now that, she wanted to just wait till she got better, but my defense just, continued, and so did the court and stuff. They wanted to continue. So no, I think she did that because she didn't want to be there. So that's bullcrap. That's freaking bullcrap. She saw a way out from being there, so she took it. Ugh. A new trial is warranted. Trial preparation, no psychologist or psychiatrist expert. Beginning his opening statement with what he said, which was immediately after the prosecution asked for a guilty verdict for murder. So now they're bringing up that where he said, yeah, what he said, her defense, I guess. I don't remember that, but um, where at? Which was immediately after the prosecution asked for a guilty verdict for murder, was no way to start. There are plenty of ways to contest the charges and the cause of death, considering that dehydration of a primary reason death occurred and there was never a restriction on water. Trial counsel should have known that a person can live without food for weeks and or months. But water is essential and one will die after only a few days without water. Take this off. Regarding VanderArk's self-diagnosis, rightfully so, the trial court sustained a prosecutor's objection when Miss VanderArk was describing her mental health issues as being a cause for her memory problems. Without a proper foundation, Miss VanderArk was not professionally competent to self-diagnose her mental health condition, which she indicated was a cause of her memory lapses. Miss VanderArk's lack of memory was pounced upon by the prosecution. It was necessary to have an expert testify as to why Miss VanderArk could remember some things but not others. Generally, decisions regarding what evidence to present and whether to call or question witnesses are presumed to be matters of trial strategy. A defendant may rebut this presumption, however, trial counsel has a duty to make reasonable investigations or to make a reasonable decision that makes particular investigations unnecessary. Um, the Supreme Court defined counsel's duty in this area in Strickland. Strategic choices made after thorough investigation of law and facts relevant to plausible options are virtually unchallengeable. And strategic choices made after less than complete investigation are reasonable precisely to the extent that reasonable professional judgments support the limitations on investigation. In other words, counsel has a duty to make reasonable investigation or to make a reasonable decision that makes particular investigations unnecessary. In an ineffective case, a particular decision not to investigate must be directly come on, Bubba. Must be directly assessed for reasonableness in all the circumstances, applying a heavy measure of deference to counsel's judgment. The duty to investigate derives from counsel's basic function, which is to make the adversarial testing process work in the particular case. Deficient performance to fail to examine records of defendant's prior conviction. A sound trial strategy is one that is developed in concert with an investigation that is adequately supported by reasonable professional judgments. Counsel must make an independent exam of facts, circumstances, pleadings, and laws involved. This includes proceeding all leads relevant to the merits of the case. Counsel performs deficiently when he or she does not make a reasonable investigation. Counsel has a duty to make reasonable investigations or to make a reasonable decision that makes particular investigations unnecessary. The duty includes the obligation to investigate all witnesses who may have information concerning his or her client's guilt or innocence. Though counsel's strategic decisions are entitled to deference, counsel's strategy must be based on reasonable investigative decisions. The failure of defense counsel to investigate and use exculpatory evidence may amount to ineffective assistance of counsel, where the missing evidence affect. Let me make sure where I'm at. Sorry. Where the missing evidence affected the outcome of the trial. Are you guys still here? Say something, guys. I want to make sure everything's okay with the live chat. Where the missing evidence affected the outcome of the trial. Failure to call 6 witnesses in murder case to support defense that the decedent had been firing shots and was shot by someone other than the defendant. Unexplained failure to call 2 witnesses known before the trial who would have testified that defendant was not selling drugs. Numerous cases have found that a failure to adequately investigate before trial negates an asserted reasonable strategy at the trial. Okay, cool. At the Sixth Circuit has explained, as the Sixth Circuit has explained, where counsel fails to investigate and interview promising witnesses, there has no reason to believe that they would not be valuable in securing release. Counsel's inaction constitutes negligence. Sorry. Not trial strategy. So they're saying like it's negligence, not trial strategy. Okay. The Michigan Supreme Court recently addressed a similar situation on People versus Pippin. Defense counsel failed to interview a witness who may have had information concerning his client's innocence prior to trial. The witness gave exculpatory statements to the defense investigator, and defense counsel was aware the witness spoke with the investigator. Failure to investigate such a witness is not a strategic decision entitled to deference. Further, trial counsel can perform deficiently by failing to investigate an attempt to secure an expert witness who could both testify in support of the defendant's theory and prepare counsel to rebut the prosecutor's arguments. Criminal cases will arise where the only reasonable and available defense strategy requires consultation with experts or introduction of expert evidence. Counsel's decision to forego an expert can be sound trial strategy only after thorough investigation of the law and facts in a case. As Shanda describes in her affidavit, there was a woeful lack of trial preparation. If trial counsel had met with Shanda in any meaningful way to prepare for the trial, he should have known she had significant memory lapses that needed to be explained. Trial counsel had the resources and initially does the correct thing by consulting with an independent psychological expert. However, trial counsel fails to use the expert at trial, who would have laid the proper foundation for the reasons Miss VanderArk suffered from memory lapses. But my thing is I wonder if that expert actually didn't, and that's why he didn't use the expert, maybe because they didn't show any of the stuff Shanda was saying. I'd be interested to see because she could sit there and lie and say that, and there's no record. Oh, there should still be a record of it. I wonder if this is true, and the reason he didn't use it is because of it wouldn't have helped her because it didn't go with what she said. It showed not, like it showed she didn't have that stuff. I wonder if he would have been allowed to show that, to the judge. Because I'm doubting that. I have a feeling it's because the expert saw that he saw that the expert showed that she doesn't suffer from a lot of the stuff that she's saying. Anyway, the forensic psych. Well, let's see. Sorry. Now it's going to go on to say what it says. Let's see. The forensic psychological expert Dr. Colin King reported after testing Shanda is placed in the high stressed category and is cause of significant clinical concern. Wait. So he's saying reported after testing that she was placed in a high stress category and is cause of significant clinical concern. Is in the severe category for characteristically schizophrenic spectrum and other psychotic disorder symptomology and is a cause for any clinical alarm. But that doesn't make you not competent. Even if they end up, do further testing and show that, do you know how many people that are schizophrenic still, I shouldn't word it like that. I don't mean like that everybody that murders people are schizophrenic. I'm saying, do you know how many? I don't think I've ever, well, hold on, how do I word this? Basically, I've seen a lot of murder cases where the person's been schizophrenic. Doesn't make them incompetent, is my point. So this is stupid. That doesn't make you incompetent if you have a psychotic disorder. Anyway, and it's cause for any clinical alarm. Her depression score places her in the severe range for characteristically depressive symptomology. Doesn't make you incompetent if you're depressed. Oh my God. And is a cause for clinical concern. Her post traumatic stress testing places her in an at risk range for characteristically traumatic symptomology and is a cause for clinical alarm. Doesn't, it's not, he probably didn't use it because it's not important. It wouldn't have helped in the case. I mean, if you're trying to say this because you're saying you were incompetent, none of these make you incompetent. I'm sorry, legally incompetency has nothing to do with this. That no. Oh my God, I'm getting mad. And it should be noted that she did provide several threshold level traumatic symptomology across all four domains: recurrent and intrusive memories, avoidance of stimuli, negative affect, and difficulty concentrating, scoring high for extreme anxiety or panic. Concluded that Miss VanderArk is in need of ongoing psychiatric care, including psychotropic medications, counseling, and peer support within a structured environment in order to come to grips with her actions. Okay, go. Hopefully, they'll give that all to you in prison. But what does that have to do with you being incompetent? Does not make you incompetent. Just because if you were stressed and had anxiety about you being on trial for murder, yeah, you're on trial for murder. Anybody is gonna be nervous, or anybody's gonna have different emotions than, you know what I'm saying? Ugh. Had trial counsel met with Miss VanderArk to discuss trial strategy, he would have been aware that she could not testify as to why she has memory lapses without an expert laying the foundation. Curiously, trial counsel had an expert available who provided a report identifying significant mental health issues of Miss VanderArk, including post traumatic stress, that was noted as being clinically alarming. An evidentiary hearing should be held to determine what, if any, trial strategy was being employed by trial counsel when deciding not to call the expert who could have laid the foundation for Miss VanderArk's testimony as to why she suffers memory lapses. Dehydration. When the death certificate literally starts with dehydration as being the leading cause of death, trial counsel provided ineffective assistance of counsel when failing to explore this area, falling into the prosecution's narrative that it was a lack of food. Had trial counsel honed into dehydration, this would and could have formed a reasonable doubt because there was no evidence that Timothy was restricted from water. A person can literally go weeks and months without food. What does that tell you? You starved him for months. I mean, I get what she's going, but that's bullcrap because you restricted his movement. But without water, they will die in a matter of days. Trial counsel did not have to look far to find out this information. It was provided by the prosecution's expert. Timothy was severely dehydrated, explaining he was not getting adequate water either. And that is that makes even more complicated, and he's even then more prone to low blood pressure, the urea, nitrogen, and creatine in his eye fluid. You could say he was clearly very dehydrated, concluding if you're not drinking water at all, you die much quicker. That's days. I feel like I haven't been close enough to the mic. Hopefully, you guys have been hearing me fine. I've been sitting back. It is a mystery why trial counsel did not seize on this opportunity to show reasonable doubt because there was never a restriction of water. An evidentiary hearing pursuant to Ginther and Supra would provide an answer. Allowing for commentary of video. During its rebuttal, without a defense objection, a law enforcement witness testified in areas where he had no business providing commentary. The officer provides testimony from a video that occurs about 7 hours before Timothy's death, describing what is occurring and what is occurring in his opinion. And what is occurring in his opinion, saying Miss VanderArk is seen dragging Timothy by the arms onto the tarp and into the room, reporting without objection that Timothy's eyes were open but not really seeing anything. He appeared to be unresponsive. He didn't speak at all. He moaned a few times. It was very concerning watching that and seeing his appearance. This commentary was objectionable because the video was played for the jury, and the officer was in no better position to say what was occurring than the jury. Believe me, Shanda, you didn't want the jury to see that because that would have it didn't need it either way. I mean, they voted so quick on her guilt, but you would have rather had the jury see it than somebody describing it. If they would have seen it, oh my lord, they would have came back with it in quicker time. Um, anyway, the testimony at issue constituted lay opinion testimony. I mean, I get that it was his opinion and stuff, but even with that said, I mean, that wouldn't have made a difference. I'm telling you, I don't know. If the witness is not testifying as an expert, the witness testimony in the form of opinions or inferences is limited to those opinions or inferences which are rationally based on the perception of the witness and helpful to a clear understanding of what witness testimony or the determination of a fact and issue. The officer's testimony in the present case invaded the province of the jury. In Fombai, the court cited several case law indicating that the issue of whether the defendant in the courtroom was the person pictured in a surveillance video it is a determination properly left to the jury. In a situation, there's no reason to believe that the witness who offered the identifying testimony was more likely to identify correctly the person than is the jury. But they did you a favor, Shonda, by not playing that for the jury. You know what I'm saying? Here the officer was in no position to provide the jury with his conclusion and subjective feelings that Timothy's eyes were open but not really see anything. I get that. I mean, I could see that. Like, he wouldn't know, so that would be hearsay. That wouldn't be him knowing if he could see anything or not. You know what I'm saying? I get that, but go ahead, Shauna, get your second trial. I mean, you're not even if you take that away, you take even if you don't even have that part in the trial of the officer describing the video, um, they are going to come back with that conviction so quick regardless. So anyway, it was very concerning watching that and seeing his appearance, where a jury is as capable as anyone else of reaching conclusion on certain facts. It is error to permit a witness to give his own opinion or interpretation of the facts because it invades the province of the jury. Okay, then let's just play it for him. If you get a retrial, then what? Hopefully, if they get a retrial, the prosecution uses her own argument and saying this should be admitted because look, she's saying they're well capable of it. Okay, we'll let them watch it themselves. Then they can decide themselves. You know? Ugh. Where am I at? There was nothing about the video that necessitated the officer's opinion. Well, then they'll just let the jury watch it next time. Trial counsel should have objected, conceding manslaughter without consent. During his closing argument, trial counsel made an unauthorized concession and urged the jury to find guilt of involuntary manslaughter, a 15-year felony, saying, now this I think is her best argument for a retrial or for ineffective counsel. You know, now I'm not saying I believe her or it's right or whatever, but as like legally, objectively, I would say this is probably her best argument for if she ends up getting it, because you know her saying, her wanting her defense to stick to her being innocent, and then him saying she was guilty of manslaughter. But you know what, like I said, I'm not going to be mad if he says retrial. I know that's the best, it's coming from a really good judge. He really put a lot of thought into it, and we'll just watch her next trial together, you know? All right. Where am I at? You would be lucky to get a manslaughter charge. You know what I'm saying? No way. Anyway, I know that's not the point. I'm just saying. These people committed manslaughter. That's what they did. They caused this boy's death, but they didn't intend to. That's simply it. We're asking that you, when you do your deliberations, that you consider that. I I understand what those pages look like. I understand what it looks like. I understand that everybody here wants justice for Timothy. I get that too. Justice is the conviction of a person for what they did, not for what they make us angry about, not what they made us sick about, not what they this is what a part of her defense's closing arguments, if you guys are following. So he's saying, not what they made us want to jump over the railing and take care of this thing ourselves. Let me read this again. Sorry. So this is a part of his closing arguments. It says, I understand that everybody here wants justice for Timothy. I get that too. Justice is the conviction of a person for what they did, not for what they make us angry about, not what they made us sick about, not what they made us want to jump over that railing and take care of this thing ourselves. And of course, you guys are probably following. All this is what he said. This right here, right here. Okay. Trial counsel's argument was a misguided attempt to steer the jury away from murder to manslaughter without the consent of his client. Miss VanderArk always maintained her innocence, even reporting to Dr. King she did nothing wrong. Miss VanderArk continues to insist that she did nothing wrong and was not convinced that her actions and instructions caused the death of her son. This clinician is of the opinion that Miss VanderArk truly believes that her actions were appropriate and not harmful. The Sixth Amendment guarantees the defendant the right to choose the objective of her defense and to insist that her counsel refrain from admitting guilt. The court held that it was error for the defendant's trial counsel to disregard the defendant's desire to maintain. In McCoy, so another case, the court held that it was an error for the defendant's trial counsel to disregard the defendant's desire to maintain his innocence rather than concede guilt in order to avoid death penalty sentence. I actually could see maybe her getting it because of that right there, that specific thing. VanderArk's case trial counsel attempted to functionally plead Miss VanderArk out before the jury in order to avoid a harsher penalty. As the court held in McCoy, to assert innocence is a decision reserved for the client, not their counsel. Yeah, I'm thinking she might get it because of that. When they were able to quote another case but you guys, we'll watch it together again. It'll be kind of interesting because if they have Paul testify again, it'll be interesting to see Paul now and see what he says now. And I'm not saying I want her to get one, but I think for just this, I could see the judge feeling like I have to, and I feel like, maybe the judge knowing that she's not gonna get out, it's just a legal thing, something that you got to go through with. So it might happen. Anyway, Miss VanderArk's objective was to fight against the charges, proclaiming her innocence as the cause of Timothy's death. Trial counsel's unilateral decision to defy his client is cause for reversal of the conviction. As in McCoy versus Van As in McCoy, Miss VanderArk opposed concession of her guilt at every opportunity, before and during trial, both in conference with her lawyer and open court, including with Dr. King at 1509. Trial counsel's concession in involuntary manslaughter was in direct opposition to these express wishes and therefore violated her Sixth Amendment right to effective counsel. Um, in McCoy, the court held that a violation of this nature is a structural error because it hinders a defendant's right to make a fundamental choice about her own defense. As such, the defendant must therefore be accorded a new trial without any need first to show prejudice. Yeah, I was saying I made Count Mouse a mod. Everybody congratulate her. New blue. You look good in blue. New and in blue. Okay. Email me, Cat Mouse. We should exchange phone numbers. You don't have to. It's not if some people are weird about giving out their phone numbers. It's not um a requirement to be a mod. So if you don't want to, that's fine. But if you want to, we could or messenger or some way to communicate. Yeah, yeah. Moira, me too. Um, we'll watch it together. Summary. As established by the United States Supreme Court in Strickland, trial counsel was ineffective if counsel's representation fell below an objective standard of reasonableness, and two, counsel errors were prejudicial to the defense. In a number of respects, as outlined above, Ms. VanderArk's trial counsel fell below the objective standard of reasonableness and was prejudicial to her. So it has to meet both of them? Because it's saying and, not or. Counsel errors were prejudicial to. Oh, I guess if it meets one, it probably wouldn't. I don't know. Okay. A new trial or Ginther hearing should be scheduled. And he did. He went through with the Ginther hearing, so I guess he didn't have to do that. So he did the Ginther hearing, so it made it to that next step, and now we're gonna see if it's gonna make it to a trial. Conclusion. Defendant appellant Shanda asks this honorable court to vacate her convictions. She was not competent to continue with the trial, showing a bona fide doubt of her competency. Additionally, Ms. VanderArk was denied the effective assistance of counsel, and a new trial should be granted on this basis, or at the very least, an evidentiary hearing. Exhibit A. So here's the exhibits. Let me zoom out and see what we got here. Oh wait. So it's basically going over her convictions, and it says my trial court attorney was Frederick Johnson. Background which was touched upon but not explored with corroborating evidence. The following is the history. Oh, okay. Let's see. My late husband, Adam VanderArk, moved from Michigan to Oklahoma to be with me in the summer of 2011. On September 13, 2014, our son, Gabriel VanderArk, and that's who they call G or little man, that's Gabriel, was born. By this time, I was very close to my in laws. So remember, Eric is Timothy's dad. Adam is Gabriel's dad. Eric is Timothy's dad. Paul's dad, and she has two other kids with Eric. They're older. So, but then they divorce and she moves. She meets Adam and then moves to Michigan. And then Adam and her have Gabriel. Okay. By this time, I was very close to my in laws, even with them being a 14-hour drive away in Michigan. So that'd be before she moved there, obviously. Okay. So we made the decision to move to Michigan in March 2015. I finished my undergraduate schooling in December 2016 and began law school September 2018. In May 2020, my second son, Paul Ferguson, moved to Michigan to live with us. He had been having substantial issues with his father, Eric Ferguson, my ex husband, and had turned 18 years old so he could move by his own choice. In early May 2021, I received a message from Eric stating that he could no longer deal with my fourth child, Timothy, that Eric was about to put his hands on Timothy, and that Eric needed to send Timothy to live with me. In subsequent conversation with Eric's then wife, Trish Ferguson, she informed me that she had given Eric an ultimatum: either send Timothy to me, or Trish was going to put Timothy in foster care in Oklahoma. During this conversation, Trish informed me about some of the struggles they had with Timothy. These struggles included him lying on a consistent basis, taking things from others and sometimes breaking them, acting out, taking food from his sister and stepsister that had been purchased just for themselves, and wandering around at all hours at night getting into things, among other issues. Trish informed me that they had a motion sensor that alarmed loudly if Timothy wandered around at night. She also stated that Eric had purchased some kind of lockbox that Timothy's sister and stepsister could lock their food in. Despite only having supervised visitation at the time, of course, we took Timothy rather than having him in foster care. So there we go. She admits, so she knew she only had supervised visitation. I asked Eric for a formal custody agreement, but that never happened. When Timothy got to us, he was on a tremendous amount of medications, as was Paul when he arrived. In spite of multiple requests to Eric to get his insurance information for Timothy, I never received that. This meant that I was unable to get Timothy to a doctor or get his medication refilled. Yes, I wanted to get Timothy off some of those medications, but I wanted to do that under a doctor's supervision. I never had the chance to do this without insurance information. At Trisha's recommendation, we did purchase and install motion sensors in case Timothy decided to roam at night. We also installed a couple of security cameras with motion sensors in case the motion sensors did not go off. So we knew everything with Timothy was all right. As 14 and 15-year-old boys do, Timothy did act up with us, though nowhere near to the level Trish described with them. He did, however, respond well to positive reinforcement and affirmation, which Timothy informed me and did not get from his father. When he acted out, his punishments at the time included writing lines, some physical exercises he did not like exercising, privileges taken away, like his tablet and television, and standing with his nose against the wall. These did curb his behavior during this time period, at least briefly. Again, he was typical teenager. There you go, typical teenager. When it came time to enroll Timothy in school, the local public high school sent for his records from the high school in Oklahoma. He was informed I was informed that Timothy had damaged a Chromebook at the school, and they would not send his records until that was taken care of, at least with a payment plan. I was not allowed to pay for the broken Chromebook because Eric was listed as the only custodian with legal authority. I told Eric this, to which he responded that the school was incorrect and that Eric would take care of it. Again, despite multiple attempts on my part to have Eric fix the situation, it was never resolved. When the school year started, I had no choice but to enroll Timothy in an online school program. I was already homeschooling Gabriel and could not teach both of them with my work, which was an hour drive each way, and with my other family responsibilities. I enrolled Timothy in Alpha Omega Monarch, an online Christian homeschool program where I could pick out Timothy's courses and how much work were he was and how much work he was to do every day, as well as tracking his progress with my own login. It was a great program, and Timothy blossomed in it, passing all of his classes the whole time. He was in the passing all of his classes the whole time he was in the program. Um, My goal was to have a transcript to show the local high school myself the following year so he could return to public school. In October 2021, we traveled to North Carolina for my oldest son, Nolan's wedding. Before we got there, Timothy had asked to spend some time with Eric while we were near each other for the wedding. Eric never attempted to spend the requested time with Timothy and had very little interaction with him during the wedding festivities. Eric's father, Glenn Ferguson, did approach me during this time, expressing his concern about how many medications both Paul and Timothy were on. Zeke's laying right beside me. I wish you could see him. Like, right, he didn't want to be that far away from me on the bed, so he's just laying right on the floor right beside me. I could pick him up and put him up here, but you still wouldn't be able to see him. Okay, so where are we at? About basically their grandfather expressing how many medications they were on, concern for how many medications they were on. I informed Glenn that I was trying my hardest to work on this. When we returned to Michigan, things were going well for a while. Again, Timothy was being a typical 15-year-old boy, but that was to be expected. He was thriving at this time in spite of typical teenage struggles. He had gotten into things that were not his, as well as some other rule breaking, but nothing outside the norm for his age and personality. This keeps turning. At this time, Timothy was not asked. At this time, Timothy was not asked to babysit Gabriel at all, as we had childcare for him worked out between Gabriel's grandparents and us. Everything changed on January 3rd, 2022. Adam had a massive stroke and never returned to our home afterward. Due to the care he needed, Adam went to live with his parents after he was released from rehabilitation facility. Not only did I lose my husband, why does this keep turning? Hold on, guys. Oh, it is. Hold on. That's why I see what's going on. I don't have it tight. There we go. Okay. Not only did I lose my husband's presence, sorry, okay, start over. Not only did I lose my husband's presence and support, I lost his income. Cold as that may sound, everything fell to my shoulders immediately and suddenly, something I was not even close to being prepared to handle. After Adam's stroke, Timothy started acting up far more than previously. No longer was it typical teenage boy stuff. Timothy was taking things from all of us almost constantly. He went for periods of time refusing to eat. Then, despite being fed consistently, he began stealing food I needed for meals for everyone. He began stealing food I needed for meals for everyone. So wait, they're saying, okay, so she's saying he went periods of time refusing to eat, and then, despite being fed consistently, which is it? Refusing to eat, fed consistently. He began stealing food I needed for meals for everyone. This included things like raw bacon and raw hamburger meat. When confronted about this, he simply stated that he was bored and that he wanted to try it. He liked the flavor of those and other odd foods he stole, so he kept taking them. Not only was this an issue on a very limited budget, I chose to not eat at times so the boys had enough. Oh, you're so the savior. Oh, my Lord. It was alarming for him to be eating raw food. The tipping point in this was Timothy stealing and eating a 2-pound bag of frozen chicken nuggets. My only thought at the time was that raw chicken was about one of the worst things he could eat. I panicked, thinking this would do serious harm to him. Well, if you read the bag, you know they pre-cooked, silly. Pre-cooked. Remembering Eric's solution to Timothy stealing food in Oklahoma, I purchased locks for the fridge, freezer, and chest freezer. We installed those in hopes of curbing these issues. One major problem, due in part to Timothy being on the autism spectrum, though he was grade level and functioned without any issues, he was as strong as an ox. He would just yank the locks off the fridge and freezer whenever he wanted. Multiple sets of these locks were purchased due to so many of them being pulled off. It helped here and there, though not consistently by any means. After Adam's stroke, Timothy also informed me that he was going to keep pushing me by acting out until I let him do whatever he wanted. I informed him that I would never allow that to happen. I don't believe he said that. I do not believe that. I know she said that at the trial too. Oh, he just said, he was just going to keep doing it. So I gave up and I let him do anything. I do not believe that. Um, I informed him that I would never allow that to happen. Between Adam's stroke and Timothy's passing, I have very little memory of what happened, what Timothy did, and what I did. I learned much later, too late, that this was a result of me having PTSD due to Adam's stroke and witnessing that and its aftermath. I remember snippets, like Timothy refusing to eat at times and then taking food at other times, but I can remember almost no particular events during that time other than what is described here and one very distinct event that sticks out in my mind. My OCD. I'm like, I have to have this perfectly. Oh. Around Mother's Day of 2022, I was trying to get a weight on my Great Dane puppy by getting on the bathroom scale, then picking the puppy up and getting back on the scale. One problem, I could not come close to lifting the puppy myself at all, much less from the floor up. Timothy volunteered to help and was able to lift the puppy without a problem. At that time, Timothy weighed 104 pounds and the puppy weighed 102. This was the same day that Timothy discovered he had outgrown me by 2 inches. He celebrated by picking me up as if I was a feather. I certainly could not pick him up. Wait, what date is she? I forget what day she said that. Oh, Mother's Day. So she's saying, like, what, May, that he weighed 104. So if you're claiming that, then from May to July, he lost 35 pounds because he weighed 69 when he was found. What, July 6th, I think it was, or July 5th or 6th, the day he died. So, I mean, okay, doesn't matter. All we know is by July, he was very malnourished. So, anyway. Muskegon County Jail. I was arrested and taken to the Muskegon County Jail on July 7th, 2022. I had never any issues with the law before this, so it was terrifying from start to finish. For the first few days, I was in a holding cell with other people. Then someone found out about my case, and I was moved to a cell by myself while still in holding. When I was finally moved upstairs, I was told that I was being put in maximum security solely due to my charges. It is important to note that my son Paul was put in general population. Maximum security at MJC was a whole separate trauma by itself. I was put in a room by myself, isolated and locked down for 23 hours per day. I was allowed out of my room into the pod for about 1 hour per day, other than attorney visits. The only way I could communicate with another human was through the hatch in the door or talking through the door. This went on for 17 and a half months. While I was at MCJ, I struggled the entire time with severe eating issues. I can't, the nerve she has, the nerve. I averaged 1 to 2 hours of sleep per night, but was often up for days at a time. I was not allowed to go to church the whole time I was at MCJ, not once. You had a mattress to sleep on, you had 3 more meals a day. You had what else? I'm trying to think what else she deprived. It's just ridiculous. Let me take a sip of water, guys. Oh, I was talking. I thought you could hear. I was saying, trying to see if you want to come up. I'll lift you up, baby. Come on. It's a cute boy. Come on, Bubba's. Oh, you're stretching. You're stretching. Come on, Bubba's. Want to come sit by me? Up on the chair? I come lift you up. I lift you up. Come on. Sometimes he likes me to lift him up. And sometimes you jump up. Most of the time you like me to lift you up. Because you're cute, spoiled boy. Want me to get you up here? Come on. Okay. Despite multiple requests, my time at MCJ, I was. Wait, hold on. Despite multiple requests during my time at MCJ, that's Muskegon County Jail. Oh, Angelina, thank you. Thank you. That's awesome. 5 memberships. Thank you so much. Come on, baby. Come on. Come on. I don't know if you'll even be able to see him up here. 1, 2, 3, up. Oh, okay. Oh. And he just lays beside me. You probably won't be able to see when he's laying, but I don't have his blanket up there. Up here, usually I put his little blanket up on the side. Love you. I love you very much. Okay. Thank you, Angelina. You're awesome. Such a good boy. He's such a good boy. He's such a good boy. Okay. Where are we at? I was so yeah. Well, what I was saying is MCJ stands for Muskegon County Jail, where she was at before um she got convicted. Thank you again, Angela. You're awesome. You awesome. I appreciate it. Okay. So I was told that I was on the waiting list. Oh wait, I have to read that. The first one. Okay. Despite requests during my time at MCJ, I was never able to see a mental health practitioner. I was told that I was on a waiting list, but apparently that waiting list was more than 17 months long. The only people I could see regarding mental health issues were some counselors with master's degrees. What's wrong with that? Um, that okay. I mean, what's wrong with that? That would be fine, right? I only saw them a few times during my time at MCJ, and they were far less than helpful. Why? Because they didn't go along with what you wanted them to diagnose you with and what you wanted them to say, because it didn't check out with what you've been claiming that you have. Anyway, MCJ was very limited in the mental health medications they offered, and even these medications were hard to be prescribed. Where are we at? They're hard to be prescribed no matter how much of a difference they could make. I was given a couple of different mental health medications while there, none of which helped. My mental health went from bad to horrific by the time of my trial. Due to the isolation, the lack of sleep, the eating issues, and the terrible mental health condition I was in, I was nowhere near able to defend myself at trial, as I had the right to do. That's jail. And when you think about what Timothy went through, oh my gosh, what he had to go through. And because of what you did to him, now you're in jail. And yeah, anybody on trial for murder that has the rest of their life up for, it's going to be up for debate or up for trial. Yeah, I mean, of course, you might have trouble sleeping because of that. And of course, you're going to be stressed. And of course, you're going to be, you know what I'm saying? That's because of the actions you did, the have consequences. Oh, he got off. Ineffective assistance of counsel. I felt my attorney, Frederick Johnson, failed me from the beginning. I informed him from the very beginning that I was not guilty of these charges. Over the 17 months he visited me at MCJ, only a handful of times, including only one visit with any trial prep. Wait. Wait, hold on. Over the 17 months, he visited me at MCJ only a handful of times, including only one visit with any trial prep. This very poor attempt at trial preparation occurred less than a week before trial and only included him asking me a few questions with no feedback in return.
Look, you see him? He's going. Um, Before trial, I also asked Mr. Johnson to file a motion for a change of venue, which he never did. Mr. Johnson hired an expert, but this expert was never called to trial, leaving me to have to testify on subjects I was not qualified to provide to the jury. When the motion was denied, I asked Mr. Johnson to appeal that decision. Oh, wait, hold on, I skipped some. The Friday before trial, we had a motion hearing to suppress some evidence that was solely for shock value for the jury. When the motion was denied, I asked Mr. Johnson to appeal that decision. He said there was no point because trial began the following Tuesday. When jury selection began, I noticed that Mr. Johnson only had 2 or 3 questions written down to ask potential jurors. Want to come back up here, Bobs? Want to take okay? You can come back up. Though he did end up asking the potential jurors more questions, it was obvious that he was not even close to being prepared for the trial. Despite my request to dismiss several potential jurors, Mr. Johnson did not do this and ended up leaving most of the. Wait, sorry, guys. Despite my request to dismiss several potential jurors, Mr. Johnson did not do this and ended up leaving most of our preemptory challenges unused. Mr. Johnson's lack of preparation did not end there. I discovered this beginning with his opening statement and continuing throughout trial. Mr. Johnson began his opening statement by pointing to the prosecutor and saying something to the effect of what he said. It went downhill from there. He did not have any questions lined up for witnesses. He wrote them down while the prosecutor questioned the witnesses. Mr. Johnson did not write down or prepare any questions for me until the witness. Wait, I have a question though. To cross-examine the witnesses, it is based upon what is asked by the prosecution. You know what I'm saying? Since it's their witness, that's what they do. You can't ask your own questions. It has to be something that they had already talked about. You know what I'm saying? It has to be, there's certain rules you have to follow. So, of course, he's taking notes and he has to wait to see what he can ask and what is already brought. You know what I'm saying? When you cross examine, they don't have free reign to ask whatever they want. They only have free, they're able to basically cross-examine on what was already said. So she must not know. I mean, she should know, but that's not how it works. If it was his witness, then yeah, he would have been prepared. But a cross-examine is only to go over what was asked. You know what I'm saying? What was asked by the prosecutor, so you could go over that stuff. So he has to wait to see, take notes, and then you could go over that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So he didn't do nothing wrong there. That's how it works, Shanda. Oh my lord. Anyway. Okay. Yeah, Mr. Johnson did not write down or prepare any questions for me until so now talking about the witnesses. Now she's talking about her. So let me just read that again, though, because it's ridiculous. He did not have any questions lined up for the witness. Witnesses. He wrote them down while the prosecutor questioned the witness first. Duh, that's how it works, buddy. Oh my lord. He's not allowed having his own questions. It's only about what they already asked him. Mr. Johnson did not write down or prepare any questions for me until the witness before me testified. Now, I don't know if I believe that, because she was the witness for the defense, right? I'm trying to think how they did that. Because was it when he called her, or did the prosecution call her? It depends, because it does matter on who, at what point when she was called. If it was his witness and he called her, then yeah, he should have had questions prepared. But I'm sure if that was the case, he did. Unless if it was when you know what I'm saying? Anyway, let me continue here. So she's saying that he didn't have anything prepared.
I was absolutely appalled when I saw this. Of utmost importance, however, was failing to identify the key issue in the case, which was the cause of Timothy's death. The medical examiner stated that one of the main causes of death was dehydration. I specifically asked Mr. Johnson to examine this much deeper. There was no accusation against me regarding depriving Timothy of water. This alone could have raised reasonable doubt, but Mr. Johnson never pursued the subject at all. I testified for around 5 hours on Thursday of trial. I was supposed to finish my testimony on Friday, including some very important questions that I wanted Mr. Johnson to ask me before I finished testifying. However, I had a severe mental breakdown on Friday morning. I had several panic attacks and was completely paralyzed, unable to even make it to the elevator to go to court. I curled up into a ball and was barely able to communicate. During this time, I specifically asked Mr. Johnson to postpone the trial until I was able to participate. When I asked this, he said there was no point in delaying anything. He stated that they could continue without me. I never agreed to waive being in court for the rest of the trial. If there is a document with my signature on it, I do not recall signing it. Further, I was in no condition to agree to proceed without my presence. I don't believe her. Like, I don't believe that she said that. I bet you she said, "What do I have to be there? Can you just finish without me? I don't want to be there," because I think it was all fake. 100% think her little thing with this was fake. The curling up in the ball. Did not believe it. I believe she did it and pretended. I don't believe it was real. No, no, not with her. Not believe that was real. And I just don't believe that she said, "Oh, can you postpone it so I could participate?" Like I said, I think she said, "I don't can do I have to be there? Can you just finish it without me?" That's what I think happened. Anyway, and he tried, and he said, well, I guess he did say that it would be no point wait until next week because it would be the same thing because of her, not because of him. Anyway, um, let's see. I did not read the trial transcript of what was said on the record on the Friday morning of the trial until March 5th, 2025. When I read the transcript, I was stunned and infuriated. First, Mr. Johnson admitted on the record that I was not competent at that time to continue. I was never evaluated by a medical professional to verify my competence to continue my trial that Friday, despite Mr. Johnson's clear statement that I was not competent to continue in the condition I was in. Yeah, but that's what you wanted him to say, that you're not competent. And the thing is I think personally the reason why he said it's not gonna there's gonna be no change, even if we waited, we gave her till next week, there'd be no change. It would be the same thing. We'd be in the same spot. So we might as well just move on. I think the reason he said it is because he knew, because Shonda said, "No, can we please just go on without me?" He knew that it wasn't because she wanted to get better. She just didn't want to be there, in my opinion. So he knew like a week from now is not going to be any good because she probably just said she just wanted to just do it without me. I mean, it's just my opinion. It's just my opinion. What do you guys think? Then Friday morning on the record, Mr. Johnson said that he had given me two options regarding trial. First, we could postpone trial until I was ready, mental health wise, or I could not return to the courtroom and they would continue without me. This was a blatant lie to the court on the record. I specifically requested to postpone the trial until I was able to participate in my own trial. Mr. Johnson blatantly lied to the court on the record, denying my right to defend myself at trial. I wish they had that on record because I think she's lying. But what, wait. Didn't she say she was in a catatonic state and she didn't realize what was going on? Wait. So how does she know it's a lie? If she didn't even know what was going on and she was in a catatonic state and her memory, she can't remember anything. And if she did, at one point she says if she did say that she doesn't remember, she wasn't in a state. And then on the second part, it's like, it's a blatant lie. How would you know it's a blatant lie if you can't remember and you were so out of it? You know what I'm saying? Oh my God, please. I really hope he doesn't give her a new trial. But I mean, if he does, I get it. But this girl is just, oh, I know the judge sees right through her, but he has to make sure he covers his bases. I get it. Oh, I have no memory of signing anything and was in no condition to provide my consent to continue. Your memory, your memory, your memory. But how do you know that you didn't tell him that then? Oh my God. Where are we at? Wait, where did I go? Okay. The transcript reveals something was signed by me to continue the trial in my presence. I have no memory of signing anything and was no condition to provide my consent to continue. There was also a question to Mr. Johnson by the court regarding a statement I made on Friday morning about hurting myself. Wait, there's also a question to Mr. Johnson by the court. Okay. I do not remember saying this, but I fully believe I said it, given my condition that morning. Mr. Johnson stated on the record that he believed I had made the statement, but did not express any concern regarding this issue. When the court expressed concern about the statement, Mr. Johnson moved on with no further comment regarding the serious of circumstances. You know why? Because he got to talk with you and seen and probably realized that there's no concern. It's just all lies. It's all, I'm the victim, poor me. So he probably realized it's really no concern. She's not gonna do it. It's just a lie to get out of stuff. And you know what I'm saying? So yeah, she said it, but he wasn't concerned because he saw that you're lying. More, they did. He testified the part one. He testified in the part one of the Ginther hearing. Go back and watch. It was about over a month ago. He did. He testified. He was at that one. And then this was a part two where Shu testified. Um. Okay, so where are we at? He had made the statement but not expressed. Okay. When the court expressed concern about the statement, Mr. Johnson moved on with no further comment regarding the seriousness set of circumstances. As I stated before, I had no idea what was stated on record before reading the transcript. I was not competent to give consent to continue the trial and was not competent to proceed. I should have been evaluated by a mental health professional. I always expressed my innocence. I never gave consent to Mr. Johnson to argue for manslaughter and never gave him consent to say I was guilty of manslaughter or, for that matter, any offense. And then she signs this. Exhibit B, professional outreach counseling. The clinical report is designed to assist in the psychodiagnostic evaluation. The specific statements contained herein are of personal nature. Okay, let's talk about her. She's a date of birth, female, Shanda, Colin. Okay. Brief case overview. Shanda is 44, Caucasian female, born March 13th, 79, facing charges for homicide, open murder. Reason for referral: Ms. VanderArk was referred to me for a psychological evaluation requested by her attorney, Mr. Johnson, to assess Ms. VanderArk for any possible psychological concerns. Summary of opinion. My opinion is based on a review of the available records from the state of Michigan, psychological testing, and clinical interview with Ms. VanderArk. A complete list of records reviewed and relied on is listed beginning page 3 of this report. Information reviewed. Below is a list of information reviewed and considered when formulating my opinion on Mr. VanderArk or Miss VanderArk. Unstructured clinical interview by Colin King, PhD, September 28th, 2023. Structural clinical interview, September 28th. Generalized anxiety disorder, dated October 31st. Hair psychopathy checklist revised, dated October 31st. This is all Colin King. Adverse childhood experiences, October 31st, 2023. Rosenberg self esteem scale, Wait, what is this information reviewed? Okay, he reviewed it all. Um, where are we at? Survey of stress symptoms, mini mental status evaluation, Beck depression inventory, Burns anxiety inventory, brief psychiatric rating scale, Kaufman brief intelligence test, client's consent. Prior to the interview, I explained to Ms. VanderArk that the nature of our visit was for the purpose of evaluation and assessment and that no doctor patient privilege would be established. She verbalized understanding the purpose of our visit. Further, we informed her that the results of the report will be shared with her attorney, Mr. Fred Johnson, and the courts. Ms. VanderArk did not object. Ms. VanderArk also understood that I could be asked to testify as to the veracity of the report and findings. She did not object. She voluntarily participated in the interview. Case background, she was born March 13th, 1979, in Haleyville, Alabama. She reported having 3 siblings, 1 older brother, 1 sister, 1 older sister, and 1 younger sister. Miss VanderArk's parents divorced when she was 8 years old. Like I said, you guys, though, my playlist, I have an interview with her sister. She comes on. There's some interviews with her fiance, which yesterday I did he called and we did a speakerphone, and the day before I just asked and relayed. I also interviewed Adam, her husband, the one she was married to when this all happened. His best friend. I interviewed her. That's on the playlist. So, okay, sorry. Just want to let you guys know if you guys are interested in seeing any of it. But anyway, so she has 1 older brother, 1 older sister, and 1 younger sister. Miss VanderArk's parents divorced when she was 8 years old. Oh, and I actually did a video of the whole history of them. And this is before I even met the sister. I really did a lot of research of her grandparents, her family, and all of her family history, and it was accurate because her sister contacted me like, "Wow, how did you get all this information?" Because that was all right. All the stuff was accurate. So yeah, interesting. If you're interested in it, she actually has a pretty interesting story. Her mother went to jail for attempted murder of her grandma. So her mother got found guilty of a attempted murder of her mother. Does that make sense? So it'd be Shanda's grandmother. So that's when they were on foster care. And in foster care while her mom was in jail. Her mom did, I think, was it 3 years in jail for attempted murder? So while she was in jail, she um they're at foster care, and her sister, Paige, says that the same kind of punishments that she was given Timothy were used on them in foster care. But she said not to that extreme, but that's where Paige thinks that's probably where she got some of the ideas, which I thought that was interesting. And then what else? There's something else I wanted to tell you guys. Um, Shoot, I forget. But yeah, okay. Oh yeah, she has a trust fund. Her grandparents were wealthy and they all had a trust fund. So she got money every month from that. So that's another thing. Okay. Um Miss VanderArk was okay. Where are we at? She had 3 siblings: 1 older brother, 1 older sister, 1 younger sister. Shonda's parents divorced when she was 8 years old and are both deceased. Her mother died at 44 in 1993, and her father died in 2003. His cause of death was not reported as they had not talked in 20 years prior to his death. Her biological father was physically abusive to both her and her mother. And that's all confirmed. Like all this stuff is true, like per her sister said, yeah, or there was some even essay that might have taken place. The abuse, trying to think what else. It's been so long since I was going over all that stuff, but okay, so yeah, her biological father was physically abusive to both her and her mother. Um,
Where am I at? So they, and then, oh, they said that she had not talked to her father in 20 years prior to his death. Her biological father was physically abusive to both her and her mother. According to Miss VanderArk, she has a scar on her forehead and had her toe broken as a result of her father's abuse. Miss VanderArk reported that her mother was incarcerated for 2 years. Oh, I guess it was 2 years. Why do I remember three? So correct me, sorry. But like I said, it's been how, like 3, 4. Whoa, it's been probably like 3 years since I covered this. Um, but anyway, so yeah, she was incarcerated for 2 years after being accused of trying to kill her own mother. I didn't even know this was gonna say all that stuff. Sorry, I didn't think it would have went. But I didn't see this when I was researching this. This wasn't available, and she didn't talk about like the mother or anything. I had just sleuthed and researched my own and found it, but so yeah, so she was accused of trying to kill her own mother, Miss VanderArk's maternal grandmother. Miss VanderArk stated that after her mother died, her stepfather kept custody of her. And per Miss VanderArk, she was molested by him for 2 years. And that um, her sister says was true too, from what she knows. So it's not like she's saying that these are lies. Per her sister, this is all true stuff. Um, Miss VanderArk reported her earliest memory to be watching the Columbia launch when she was 2 years old, and she always wanted to be an astronaut. She reported attending several schools for gifted children and was always excelling academically through K through 12, undergraduate studies, and law school. Miss VanderArk reported passing the bar exam with only one wrong answer. Yeah, see, I was remembered, right? She passed it the first time, and she was so proud of that because a lot of people, I guess, have to take it a couple times, but well, only one wrong answer, so almost a perfect score. Well, then that shows you. You should have been aware and been perfectly capable of looking up legal documents to see that wasn't supposed to have Timothy. That was the reason couldn't have her. All that stuff. There's other things that she was perfectly capable of knowing how to look up. Anyway, an accomplishment that not many have achieved as far as only getting one wrong answer. Miss VanderArk denied ever being hospitalized psychiatrically, hearing voices, and visual hallucinations. So she's saying she denied doing that. She reported that she consumed alcohol but once every 6 months and that she never used and other drugs. She was prescribed Vyvanse and switched to Ritalin with a booster dose of Adderall for ADHD and reported no other psychological issues other than anxiety after her second husband's stroke. None of the, oh. Psychological test administered, behavior observations. The only thing that he checked is normal. Or wait, hold on. Okay. He checked appearance appropriate, affect normal, self concept positive, mood normal, interview behavior normal, communication normal, thought content normal, orientation normal. Um, Survey of stress symptoms. Individuals subjected to mental or physical abuses are known to suffer from tremendous stress symptoms of depression, constant anxiety, and burnout. Though anger, fear, and other negative emotional reactions are natural and necessary, we need to channel them constructively to create a balanced state in our body and mind. Growing up can be a difficult experience for all genders. During this period, rapid physical transitions necessitate transition in child's mental makeup, its attitude towards people and circumstances. Children are often ill equipped to cope with stress during these transitions from childhood to pre adolescence and from pre adolescence to adolescent phases and into and adulthood. Adults take on much stress managing their families, working, and coping with medical challenges. Psychological symptoms: anxiety, depression, difficulty concentrating, forgetfulness. So these are the things that she must have checked: forgetful, agitation, hyper, feeling overwhelmed, irrational thoughts, fears, compulsive behaviors, confusion, feelings of unreality, feeling of being detached from oneself, restless, on edge, mood swings, loneliness, intrusive thoughts, relationship problems,
family problems, work problems, irritability, excessive worry, obsessing, feelings of guilt, sad, tearful, nightmares, social isolation, apathy, indifference, sexual dysfunction. But of course, she would check. She knows what she's on the line for. So, of course, she's going to make sure she checks some of these things that would maybe give her an out on some things. You know what I'm saying? Physical symptoms: headaches, muscle tension, low back pain, upper back, neck or shoulder pain, clenching teeth, abdominal distress, nausea, shaking or trembling, numbness or tingling, feeling of choking, sweating, fatigue, high blood pressure, chills or hot flashes, appetite disturbance, diarrhea, digestive problems, constipation, rash, hives, shingles, use of alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, stress, bowel problems, thyroid dysfunction, sleep disturbance, other stress related health problems. So remember, her fiance yesterday said she had a thyroid issue that's not taken care of. And I remember her also complaining about that at times. But what about use of alcohol, cigarettes, drugs, stress? I don't know what, if they're saying that she checked. I don't know. Anyway, scale 0 to 7, low, moderate, high, 22 plus very high, unable to cope. So it's saying, based upon the results above, Miss VanderArk's raw scores 33 places her in the very high. Oh, I think I was misunderstanding this. I'm sorry, guys. I think I'm understanding that all these, and then based on that, on the above results, so they kind of give a level. So her raw score of 33 places her in the very high stress category and is cause of significant clinical concern. So she's very high. Yeah, but look where she's at. And look what she wants to make it seem like she's the victim. And you know what I'm saying? Because she's not going to be on trial for murder. Now I'm saying at this point, when she was going through this stuff before the trial, of course. And then with how manipulative she is, she's going to make it look worse, in my opinion. Anyway, a mini mental status exam. The MMSE is a mental status exam aimed at addressing a client's current mental functioning relative to time, place, person. So it's saying these are the ranges, and it says Miss VanderArk denied any daily issues with memory, but short term and long term. Miss VanderArk's raw score was 30, placing her in the normal range for mental functioning. Based upon these results, Miss VanderArk very likely experiences no problems with psychological functioning, orientation, or functioning in her current environment completely and autonomously. Sorry. Brief Psychiatric Writing Scale BPRS was published in 1962, a 16-question questionnaire by Dr. John Overall and Donald Gorham. Later enhanced it by adding 2 additional categories, excitement and disorientation, resulting in the 18-item scale used widely to assess the effectiveness of treatment. The BPRS is a rating scale which a clinician or researcher may use to measure psychiatric symptoms such as depression, anxiety, hallucinations, psychosis, and unusual behavior. Sorry, hallucinations. Oh, when I'm reading so long, I start like vocally, I get lazy or like tired pronouncing things. Anyway, so let's see. The scale is one of the oldest, most widely used scales to measure psychotic symptoms. It should be administered by a clinician who is knowledgeable concerning each of the symptom domains. In severe mental health disorders, it is particularly useful in gauging the efficacy and treatment. Here I go. Patients moderate to severe psychosis. The rater enters a number for each symptom. Okay, let's skip here. Let's see what she got. Raw score of 58. Okay, so she got a 58, places her in the severe category for characteristically schizophrenic spectrum and other psychotic disorder symptomology, and is a cause for any clinical alarm. In the all relevant domains measured, mood disturbance, reality distortion, activation, apathy, disorganization, Somatization. Miss VanderArk does not function within the normal range. Her high score on this assessment is cause for clinical concern and warrants further testing. The Beck Depression Inventory. 21 items self-reporting rating inventory that measures characteristic attitudes and symptoms of depression. It's developed in forms including several computerized forms, a card form, the 13-item short form, and the more recent 11 BDI 11 by Beck. Let's see, 20. Wait, where am I at? Hold on. The responses range from 0 to 3. For example, 0, I do not feel sad, to 3, I am so sad or unhappy that I cannot stand it. The BDI takes approximately 10 minutes to complete, although clients require a 5th, 6th grade reading level to adequately understand the questions. Internal consistency for the BDI ranges from 0.73 to a 0.92 with a mean of 0.86. Similar reliability has been found for the 13-item short form. The BDI demonstrates high internal consistency with alpha coefficient of 0.86, 0.81. Okay, let's see. For psychiatric and non-psychiatric populations. Okay. So we have either minimal depression, mild, moderate, or severe. I'm sure she went severe, right? Let's see. So 44, I guess severe. So from 29 to 63 severe depression, she scored 44. So she's in the severe. Post-traumatic stress. I'm going to kind of skip down here. Quantifying, monitoring symptoms, screening individuals, assisting. It's a self-report again, of course. Should not be used as a standalone diagnostic tool when considering a diagnosis. The clinician will still need to use clinical interviewing skills and a recommended structured interview. Whether the symptoms meet criteria for PTSD, causing clinical significant distress or impairment, or whether those symptoms are not better explained by or attributed to other conditions. Okay, let's see. She scored a 66. I forget. Oh, 66. Let's see. Oh, they didn't. Wait, did I? Hold on a second. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, I'm going up and down. So she scored a 66, places her in the at risk range for characteristically traumatic symptomology. Okay. Burns anxiety inventory. Checklist 33 symptoms related to anxiety, broken down into 3 categories: anxious feeling, anxious thoughts, physical symptoms. Person taking the assessment ranks each item on a scale from 0, not at all, 3, a lot. Anxious feelings, including items include feeling that things around you are strange, unreal, or foggy, apprehension or sense of impending doom. Thoughts include such items as difficulty concentrating, fear of being alone, isolated or abandoned. Physical symptoms list 16 items, including pain, pressure, or tightness in the chest, restlessness, or jumpiness. She got a 68, which 51 to 99 is extreme anxiety or panic. So she's extreme. Generalized anxiety disorder. She got a 20, which puts her in severe category. Self esteem scale. I don't know. Do you want me to read like the details of each one or not? I'm gonna skip that one because I'm getting tired here. The self esteem is 10 item scale that measures global self worth by measuring both positive and negative feelings about the self. Their answer using 4-point Likert scale format ranging from strongly agree to strongly disagree. 13 places her in the low self esteem. Oh, that doesn't give a. So she has low self esteem range from characteristically high and healthy self regard. Low self esteem range for. Based on these, she exhibits negative self concept. With some exceptions to accomplishments she has achieved academically, of course. Adverse childhood experiences, traumatic events occur in childhood, 0 to 17 years of age. Also included are aspects of the child's environment that can undermine their sense of safety and bonding, such as growing up in a household with substance abuse problems, mental health problems, chronic health are linked. Oh, ACEs are linked to chronic health problems, mental illness, and substance use problems in adolescence. Can also negatively impact education, job opportunities. Okay. She score was a 7 out of 9. Okay, her score was a 7 out of 9. Possible adverse childhood experience. A score over 4 indicates risk for criminality, social dysfunction, mental health, and substance abuse issue, and early deaths due to negative impact on one's health. So she got a 7 out of 9. Oh, so it fits right for criminality. I mean, it makes sense. Murder is a, you know what I'm saying? Like high risk. Yep. Oh, the psychopathy checklist. She got a 5, is below the cutoff score for of 30 or greater is used to diagnose psychopathy. So she didn't qualify for that. She didn't reach the threshold for psychopathy. Oh, personality inventory. Let's see what she got. Her conclusion. Let's see. Personality test she got. Miss VanderArk overreported general psychological dysfunction and generated a larger than average number of infrequent responses. For individuals with no history or current corroborating evidence of substantial dysfunction, it likely indicates overreporting, which lie. She's freaking lie. This challenges the validity of this measure and also calls into question the other psychological tests that were administered. That's what I was saying, dude. She's trying. And some of them don't account for it as much as others. But this one, she overreports. So now that also calls into question the other psychological tests that were administered. Miss VanderArk is highly intelligent individual with no previous mental health issues, as reported earlier in this report. Bam, that says it all right there. That says it all. Ugh. Intelligent test. Let's see. Cognitive ability, full scale IQ, the average range. Let's see what she got. Composite score verbal 120. Nonverbal 102. Oh, wait, verbal 120. The confidence 95%. So she falls in that. She's in the 91st percentile above average. Nonverbal 102. Confidence 95%. 55th percentile. Full scale 113. 81. 81 percentile average. Huh. So, wait, let's see. Miss VanderArk provided a valid and interpretable protocol for assessing her cognitive ability. Miss VanderArk's full scale IQ within the average range standard 113 confidence interval, 106 to 109 percentile rank. This means that 81% of her peers her age scored at or below her score of 113. Due to the possibility of error, there's a 90% chance that her would fall in range between 100. Okay, blah, blah. Okay, I'm not going to read all this. There was an 18-point difference. Here's the conclusion. Miss VanderArk is accused of causing the death of her son Timothy through starvation and torture. A review of text messages and pictures indicates a pattern of cruel and harmful instructions to her older son to inflict punitive measures on her son Timothy in order to get him to conform to her expectations. After reviewing the text messages with Miss VanderArk and the police report, Miss VanderArk continues to insist that she did nothing wrong and was not convinced that her actions and instructions caused the death of her son. So remember, this is the conclusion of the doctor, the psychiatrist that viewed all this stuff. This is his conclusion of her. So this was back, when he did this. I think it was in 2022. or some was in 2023. Anyway, where are we at? She didn't. So she continues to insist that she did nothing wrong and was not convinced that her actions and instructions caused the death of her son. This clinician is of the opinion that Miss VanderArk truly believes that her actions were appropriate and not harmful. It appears that Miss VanderArk is suffering from a deep-seated delusions and thinking that the starvation and administering bread with hot sauce as a continuous diet and means of punishment will not cause the demise of someone, even her son. Given the years of abuse suffered by the hands of her father, history of family dysfunction, high levels of anxiety and depression, it is evidence that one can understand but not justify her actions. Miss VanderArk is in need of ongoing psychiatric care, including psychotropic medications, counseling, and peer support within a structured environment in order to come to grips with her actions. Hey, but that doesn't mean she's incompetent. Yeah, she's definitely gonna need some help because she's not right. Not right. Somebody that could do that is just, I don't understand. So I guess we're gonna, oh, there's one more. Hold on. Incident report. This was from 12/15/23. So this would have been because the death was July of 22. So this would have been a whole year and a half after the death. But this would have been, if I'm remembering, right around her trial time, because her trial was wasn't it December, I think, or of 2023. Let's see what it says. Sergeant Vanderland advised RO that subject had made remark that she was wanted to self-harm, self-delete herself. Inmate VanderArk was over in the court service preparing to return to her trial. So, yep. Subject was returned over to booking. HD3 was cleaned and cleared of anything that would be harmful, as well as inmate VanderArk dressed out in undergarments, reading glasses, all placed in clothing bag 247. Subject has been laying down in HD13. Past attempts NA, treatment NA. Action taken was one of those gowns. And that's about it, guys. Well, there you go. So the sound was good. Like you can see him over here. So nothing, there was no issue with as I think as long as I don't turn my head, it's good. It didn't cut out at all, guys. Let me put you over here. I think I am gonna call it a day. I'm gonna go eat some dinner. Um, but thank you. Well, let me remove this. Thank you, Cat Mouse. Welcome to the mod team. Email me if you want to exchange a way to communicate. Um, and Maura, thank you for being here, commenting, and good job, Cat Mouse. Your first day on the job. um, Jamie, nice to see you again. Mallory. The 1W. Wait, where did that go? Where was I at? Oh, there. Um, where? Oh, 1W friend. Right? Yeah, exactly. Yep. She overreported, which is a sign of lying. I mean, you're not being honest, and they could tell. So a lot of those tests are set up where they could tell about that, but like they're not perfect, you know. And if the smarter you are, sometimes you could, you know, they try to make the test as good as possible to stop that. Because a lot of, you know, a lot of the times it's used in legal stuff too, you know. Who else? I'm seeing who else is still here in chat. I'm gonna say hi. Seems like it's the same three people chatting. Oh, Mallory, here we go. Cat is 10 p.m. and I wait, Cat Mouse, remind me, where are you from again? I feel like you're not from the US, right? If I'm remembering right. Are you on the same time zone? All saying, are you still here, buddy? Well, thanks, guys. Angelina, thank you for the gifted memberships. Catmel's 4-month member. Yeah, yeah. Oh, thank you. Yes, the short. I wanted to play the one. Somebody was talking about her graduation. I'll play the short I did. Hold on, let me bring it up. But let me share my playlist again, guys. I'm gonna share the playlist. I'll try to remember to put it in the description again too. I'll do the playlist for the case and then the playlist. I made a separate one for the calls, even though I think I added the calls in the main playlist too, but no biggie. I'm going to share them both. Hold on. If you want to watch, where I read all the documents and just the case, like all the coverage I did, here is that link. And you can find it on my channel, my playlists. And I'll put it in the description too. And then here's my playlist for the jail calls if you're interested. Those are really interesting polls because Paul has a lot. Very interesting. Mellow. I suggest if you haven't listened, check those out. See what if it changes your mind about him. But here's the calls with the jail calls, the playlist with the jail calls, and then let me bring up that. Hold on. The graduation. It's a short little video. 1 second. Let me put these on so I could hear it with you. I think it's a short. If it's not in my short section, then it's a short video. But why do I feel like I remember it? Yeah, it is a short. Okay. Okay, you ready? Hold on. I have to share my screen really quick again. Then I'm gonna go eat some dinner. Eat some dinner. I made some pizza on this French bread type. No, it's not even French bread. What would it be called? I made it for me and my mom yesterday. It was so good. But then the cheese dripped on the racks and it started smoking and the alarms went off. But I don't know. But anyway, okay. So here, oh, my OCD. I have to redo it again because I feel like just in case I didn't press share audio. Oh my lord. Oh shoot. I might have to redo it if I don't have my. Oh no, I got it. Okay, let's do this. I hungry. I hungry. You see Zeke's little butt over there? He didn't really sleep in his bed early at all. All right, here we go. You ready? Wait a minute. Why is that? That's why it keeps recommending. Do you ever do that where you get I've had this happen a ton where I must be sleeping because I have a habit of I have my phone sleep and I sleep text or sleep push buttons. Um, but a lot of the times I'll somehow I'll be checking who I'm subscribed to, which is really, and I'm subscribed to these people I've never watched them. I must have accidentally subscribed to random channels that either I never even heard of or I would never subscribe to. I don't know. It's so weird. Okay. I had to unsubscribe. Somebody random because I was it'll come up and you'll why are you subscribed to that? Yeah, I'm not. Okay. Well, let me. Oh my god, I'm silly. Or I have to go find it again because I accidentally exited out. I did not mean to do that. What the dickety? Oh, I could do it in my history. All right, you ready? Oh shoot.
This is a journey best traveled with love and support abounding. Thanks to my family, my
I'm
friends.
gonna redo it. Hold on, I'm gonna redo it and try to do it again because I had it muted. Okay.
Shanda, VanderArk, magna cum laude.
This is a journey best traveled with love and support abounding. Thanks to my family, my friends, my classmates, all of our school staff, and my mama, my guardian angel, for that love and support.
Shanda, VanderArk's,
So I want to point out who everybody is.
magna cum laude.
Hold on.
This is a journey best traveled with love and support abounding.
So this is her dog, obviously. This is G. Adam, her husband, and he was her husband at the one that had the stroke. He actually is in a wheelchair. Like he was born, I forget what he has. So he was always in a wheelchair, I think his whole life. But he's the one that ended up having the stroke. But he was married to her when this all happened. He just wasn't living there. And you'll see Paul right here. Kiss her. Okay, sorry.
Thanks to my family, my friends, my classmates, all of our school staff, and my mama, my guardian angel, for that love and support.
Shanda, VanderArk's.
Let me make sure. Hold on. Let me make sure something. Let me make sure I don't have a longer version on my regular videos. Because sometimes I would. Hold on. Just give me 1 minute. I just want to make sure of something. Hold on. Oh, why don't I have Zeke here? Hold on. All right, give me 1 minute. I just want to double check something really quick. All right, hold on. Or in my playlist, I'll have a random thing that I don't think I put it in there. Remember I was saying I was talking about like, or other people are allowed to add to playlist because I'll have things constantly when I'm just, I mean, I shouldn't say constantly, but I swear anytime I go through my playlist, which isn't a lot, just to see, like, I'll find like a random video that I don't even remember ever seeing of a different channel. They, I feel like I used to think somebody was putting them in my playlist somehow, but then I remember I was saying, I was asking you guys, are you guys able to add to my playlist? And I swear everybody said no. So that means somehow I'm accidentally, video comes up and I'm sleeping, I'm accidentally adding them to my playlist. Case in point, on the jail calls, I have some strawberry earth cake from Charlie Parks. I've never ever watched that channel in my life. Don't ever remember seeing that channel. So I'll have to like remove stuff from my playlist. So if you ever see a random weird video that doesn't belong in a playlist, it's because I accidentally probably was sleeping and a random video came up and I hit it, or somebody added it. If you are allowed to add to playlists, I don't know. I don't think you can, but I don't know if you can. All right, hold on. You shouldn't be able to, but let me remove this. So yeah, just so you know, if there's, it's just an accident somehow. And it doesn't even mean I purposely watched that video. It could be a sleep click. You know how like things, I have automatic play, so videos will just keep coming up. And I fall asleep and I hit it. I must hit it. Wait, where? Hold on. I'm trying to find my Shanda. Oh, here it is. Okay. All right, let me see something. Just give me 1 minute. I had up the jail call one on accident. I'm trying to find the other one because I want to see um if I have a longer version of that, or at least one on horizontal so I can make it bigger, a bigger screen. Um, maybe I don't. Oh, I got one titled, Shauna used to lay down beside Paul, play with his hair to help him relax. I think that was another weird kind of, I mean, I guess it doesn't necessarily if a kid's young, it depends on their age, I would say, if they're a little kid. But if you're an adult, that might be kind of weird. I don't know. But I remember, I swear, I think it was Adam saying it was just the way she would like hug them. It was just seemed inappropriate or something, he said, if I'm remembering right. Like where she'd hug Paul. Okay, I don't have a longer version of the graduation, but you saw it. So you see G, Adams in the background, and Paul. But I swear the reason I thought that is because I swear it at one point you could actually see Adam's mom. Oh, that might be in the birthday video. All right, guys, I'm gonna end it. Thank you again, everybody. And just remember, guys, if you could help, remember to comment on all my videos because I haven't been getting comment. I mean, I guess I got some good comments in the live I did yesterday, excuse me, but I haven't been getting many comments in some of my videos, and that really helps, with engagement and stuff. So if you could just remember to comment something, anything, I'm always reading comments too. So also, I just realized that I could comment by leaving a voice video or a voice comment. Only the creator can do it. So, I left a couple of voice, like if I'm responding to your guys's, I could probably just comment it too, under the video. I could leave an audio, and it looks like I leave a video too. So I left a few audios earlier, comments, so you can basically press it and hear. Isn't that cool? I actually had seen that it was an option way back because I seen one of the channels I watched was leaving it, but then I went to my comments and I wasn't able to do it. So I think it just depends, and like only certain creators at certain times it wasn't enabled yet at the time for some reason. That was like last year I think it was, but now it is. I checked again and now I could do it. So yeah. Um, I'm Cat Mouse. I left you an audio under the comments, so anybody could listen. You could go in there, and if you ever see like where it looks like you could press play or comment on the comments, yeah, it's audio. Oh, okay. Stacks Charlotte Storio. Hello, hola, Anthony. Thanks for coming. Wait, makes you cry? Wait, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, right. See, I didn't put that. And if I did, it was accident. All right, bye, guys. Say bye to Zeke. Zeke, Bubba. Try to get him to get up. Zeke, baby, come here. Say hi to everybody. Say hi to everybody, baby. Say hi to everybody, Bubba. I'll try to. Oh, oh, come here. Come here. Come here. See, I'm gonna see where you can see him. Come here, Bubby. Oh, hi, Bubbies. Hi, Bubbies. Oh, look at this beautiful boy. Look at this beautiful boy. Look at this beautiful boy. Mwah. I love you. I love you. Show your beautiful face. Show your beautiful face. Show your beautiful face, baby. Show. Sit. Sit down like this. No, up, 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 up. Hold on. Hold on. He's like, what are you doing? I'm trying to show your beautiful face. I'm trying to show your beautiful face. Whoa. Oh. Okay, hold on, Willis. Oh, I'm getting a cripple my leg. I'm gonna cripple my leg. Oh, oh. Hold on, I can't sit down. Got a cramp. Okay. Oh, there's my beautiful babes. I could take these earphones off. There's my beautiful baby. See, they just wanted to see how cute you are. So cute. You're so cool. Oh, the yawner. He's the yawner. He's the yawner. I wish I'd have got you on before we got your hair cut with the little curly cues. You're still adorable. You're adorable any way you look. I just like when it gets nice and shaggy. You look like a little puppy. Little puppy boy. Little puppy boy. Oh, I'm so hot. I need to start exercising regularly and gain some winter weight, holiday weight. Love you. Anyway, thank you guys. Zeke appreciates. He appreciates it, huh, Bubs? He did. Thank you. Thank you. Look at his eyes sparkling. Let's go eat some dinner. Wanna go eat some dinner? Wanna go eat some dinner? You go eat some dinner? Okay, bye guys.